station. It was clear that this place had been hastily cleared, but it still held a wealth of supplies that might seem trivial to others, yet felt like treasures to Beth and her companions. In one corner, dozens of unopened boxes of high-energy nutritional supplements and synthetic protein bars were stacked, enough for the 14 of them to last 5 years. Several refrigerated cabinets even contained high-quality canned meat and dehydrated fresh fruit, luxuries that seemed almost legendary. Crucially, there was also a large supply of recycled water, sufficient not only for drinking but also for luxurious baths. Neatly hung in the compartment were well-maintained, standardized combat uniforms and helmets, some of which were older models but still a world apart from the patched-up rags they wore. On the weapon racks, several energy-charged, well-maintained magnetic rifles and pulse pistols replaced their outdated and cobbled-together weapons. What made Beth's heart race was a small medical kit that contained not only standard trauma treatment nanogel and hemostatic bandages, but also some high-grade physical recovery agents and nerve stimulants she had only heard about in black market rumors. It bore the name of the chief medical officer, Greenleaf. The retreat of Fengling's team had been so hurried that these supplies, which might have been mere consumables to them, were left behind. But for Beth and her sisters, who had struggled to survive in the garbage for over 3 years, this was a treasure, a paradise. It was the capital that allowed them to stand tall again and even gave them the confidence to develop further. This week, relying on these supplies, they regained their strength, replaced their gear, and even repaired a damaged life support system on their ship. Here, everyone lived comfortably and pleasantly. Whenever they had time, they formed teams to explore this wonderful paradise, searching for more surprises. At least, they could live like this for 5 years. As long as no one came. Chapter 110, Tornado Boss, it's your turn to bathe. Beth responded with a hum, slowly withdrawing her gaze from the deep space outside the window. But just then, a sudden flash of light erupted from the distant, silent void. The silhouette of a massive ship emerged, its elongated hull and dark armor resembling eternal night. With enormous light wings on either side of the bow resembling the double-edged scythe of death, slicing through the void as it glided toward the collection station. Beth's breath caught in her throat, her body freezing in place, and her recently relaxed nerves tightened to their breaking point. What was that? A battleship? Where did that battleship come from? Her heart raced, a chilling dread surged up her spine, instantly shattering all fleeting feelings of comfort. She had never seen a ship of this model before. Quick, turn off the lights. On the top level of the collection station, the lights extinguished in an instant. On the bridge of the ship, the death spiral. Lu Ling sat upright in the captain's seat, watching the suddenly extinguished lights at the top of the tower. His brow slightly furrowed. Fengling is back, he murmured to himself, with a hint of amusement. Surely, they don't really think the most dangerous place is the safest? His gaze swept across the scanning interface, but he found no trace of the night orchid. Never mind. With a sharp sound, Lu Ling activated the communication, Dark Crow. Lead the assault team to land immediately, clear all obstacles, and try to capture live ones. Killing them is also acceptable. The bow of the Death Spiral-class ship glided slowly to the edge of the collection station, then began to decelerate, coming to a steady stop. On the cold metal deck, Bloodshark, Lotus, and other recently incorporated former Red Army elites were gathering. They had just received new equipment purchased from Parker and were still adapting to the weight and feel of these precision weapons, exchanging low whispers among themselves. Dark Crow stood at the front of the line, the dark golden standard power armor of the Empire shimmering with a ghostly light under the cold illumination of the cabin. The crimson optical visor on his face coldly scanning the assembled trainee crew. The assembly took 13 seconds. His voice came through the armor's built-in amplifier, mechanical and hoarse, devoid of any emotional fluctuation. According to the standards of the Imperial Marine Corps, this time was enough for an enemy assault frigate to complete 3 rounds of orbital bombardment or for a stealth squadron to deploy 3-dimensional bombs. Bloodshark's expression froze. Lotus's eyes narrowed slightly, and all whispered conversations abruptly ceased. They felt an entirely different atmosphere. This was not a reprimand from a superior or a leader, but an absolute discipline stemming from a higher level. The equipment worn was loose. Dark Crow's gaze swept over Bloodshark, whose shoulder armor was askew from years of carrying the Skull Crusher. Tactical positions overlapped, lacking the most basic crossfire visibility and emergency evasion awareness. His eyes landed on a few former Red Army members huddled together, in the presence of Her Majesty's enemies. Your previous performance was not that of a warrior. His voice suddenly rose in a cold pitch. You are moving targets. Cheap, disposable cannon fodder that consumes enemy ammunition. He slightly turned his head, locking onto Bloodshark. Do you think that bravado can make up for sluggish reactions? On the Empire's battlefield, more valiant corpses than you can fill the eye of fear. True power comes from absolute obedience and surpassing the enemy's efficiency in slaughter. Everyone was stunned, their hearts shaken. Did this captain find an Imperial commander? When did the Emperor of the Pasha Empire become a queen? That guy had been in power for over 2,000 years. Hadn't he? A bone-deep chill climbed up their spines. Stand at attention. Everyone felt a jolt, straightening their bodies instantly, their chaotic movements becoming rigid and unified. Loose, sluggish, doubtful, arrogant, hesitant. With each word Dark Crow spat out, it was as if an invisible heavy hammer struck the spirits of the crowd. If it weren't for the fact that His Excellency the Commander needed your still useful shells, the voice of the Dark Raven would have ultimately dropped to freezing point, carrying a coldness akin to a verdict. At this moment, you are only worthy of kneeling on the ground, waiting to be purified into the Empire's laborers or the remnants of heretics. The assault deck was silent, with only the faint hum of the circulation system and the frantic heartbeat of each individual remaining. The invisible pressure from the Dark Raven was overwhelming. Bloodshark felt cold sweat in his palms, and Lian's fingertips were slightly chilled. For the first time, they clearly realized that they had not joined another pirate group, but a strictly hierarchical military machine with terrifying standards that viewed life as mere grass. Do you understand? I understand. The crimson visor of the Dark Raven's helmet flickered with light as he suddenly shouted, "All troops, advance! For Her Majesty the Queen!" Bloodshark, Lian, and others were shaken to their core by this sudden battle cry, filled with religious fervor and absolute obedience. "For Her Majesty the Queen!" Someone instinctively shouted in response. "For Her Majesty the Queen!" The shouts quickly merged into one. Everyone rushed onto the assault boats, their nerves taut to the extreme. As if this was not a simple cleanup operation, but a one-way death mission. The hatch hissed shut. The Dark Raven stood like a dark golden reaper at the door of the pilot boat, taking one last glance at the panicked new recruits. "Remember." His voice came through the internal communication, chilling to the bone. "Before the real battle begins, the weak are already dead." The engines of the assault boats roared to life, expelling ghostly blue ion streams, like 3 light arrows shooting towards the silent collection station. Inside the cabin, everyone gripped their newly issued rifles, knuckles turning white. Lian looked through the porthole at the battleship ahead, towering like a mountain, then glanced back at the Dark Raven's unfathomable figure at the hatch. Her earlier confidence in her own strength completely replaced by a pure, icy fear. True terror comes from absolute order. On the bridge, Lu Ling watched this scene with a dark expression. What if the next time they summon a certain naval force? Wouldn't that be a hand-holding situation? Should I try it? He pondered while stroking his chin. After 3 assault boats landed, Lu Ling and Zavina also boarded an assault boat to the port. Opening the shop. Tornado-class attack battlecruiser, wheelbase, length 220 m, width 182 m, height 548 m, mass 416,000,000 t, 4.1, billion tons, effective shield strength, 3, 800 TJD effective armor strength, 3, 660 TJD effective structure strength, 3, 600 TJD capacitor core, 27,000 TJ, recharge time 347 seconds, reactor output, 11, 400 GWH1, 480 GWH, light wings, large weapon slots, 16, small weapon slots, 24, medium missile launch tubes, 4 price, 584,000,000. What the heck? Why is it so expensive? Chapter 111. Abundant slots, 584 million. Haha, after working so hard, I've only saved up 600 million. How poor. Lu Ling helplessly closed the system. He noticed a phenomenon. The prices and inventory in the system store were based on the market, with some fluctuations, but not much. So what caused these fluctuations? Before his crossing, he saw that the market price for a Tornado-class ship was around 3.2 billion. Who was manipulating the market? Or was the market just like the game? But that is impossible. Could everyone be staying up late? Did they all cross over? Lu Ling couldn't figure it out. Perhaps the future would provide answers. Has everyone disembarked? He looked at Zavina. All personnel have disembarked. Dira led the team to the underground laboratory at the collection station to gather data, and Chief Medical Officer Greenleaf went along, Zavina replied. Lu Ling nodded, his gaze fixed on the death spiral. They recycle, command was issued, and the massive hull of the death spiral slowly began to vanish into the void, reappearing in the hangar the next moment. In fact, Lu Ling had tried this a long time ago. Some people on the ship could not be recycled, and the system would not respond at all. The interface switched to the ship equipment list of the dazzling store. Lu Ling prepared to fully equip the death spiral, even though he was using only the most cost-effective and cheap items. His gaze quickly selected. Purchase 1,200mm cannon, 14, 210, 000. 000 ISK. Purchase large adaptive shield reinforcer, 1. Increases shield resistance to all types of damage. 10, 000, 000. Purchase bodyguard sentry drone, 10-6, 000. 000. Purchase berserker heavy attack drone, 150, 000, 000. Purchase Large Cruise Missile Launcher 6. A launcher mounted on battleships for long-range combat with other battleships, but not suitable for bombing strategic facilities. It has a large ammunition capacity but a slow launch speed and is difficult to lock onto small, fast ships. Length, 22 meters, 44,000,000. Purchase, Stasis Webifier. 4. By using micro-energy flow to reduce the target's maximum speed, this equipment can effectively temporarily bind the target, reducing its speed. 4. 600,000. Purchase, Sensor Booster. 1. By fusing radar data, it further expands the locking distance and improves scanning resolution and sensor strength. This equipment can be used with scripts to enhance its effects in certain aspects. 1,000,000. Purchase, Persistent Sensor Dampener. 1. Reduces the sensor range and speed of the locked ship. This equipment can be used with scripts to enhance its effects in certain aspects. 1,000,000. As for shield recharge, Lu Ling considered it and decided to equip them all. After all, he didn't know when he would recycle again. It was better to be cautious. If the ship blew up, it would be difficult to recover. Purchase, Large Shield Recharge Booster. 1. Consumes capacitors to quickly restore shield values. 48 million. Since there are plenty of slots, might as well install a battery. Purchase, Large Capacitor Battery. 1. Increases capacitor storage capacity. Effectively resists energy siphoning and energy neutralization effects. Capacitor capacity increases by 18,500 TJ, 35 million. Since there are plenty of slots, install 2 recharge units. Purchase, Large Capacitor Recharger. 2. Expands reactor output and improves capacitor recharge rate. 30 million. Since there are plenty of slots, install 1 Jump Disruptor. Purchase, Jump Disruptor 1. 1. Interferes with the target ship's navigation computer, preventing it from preparing for a jump. 4 million. Just to be safe, buy another jump knife. Purchase, Large Micro Jump Drive. 1. After jumping, the ship's orientation and original speed remain unchanged. This equipment can be interfered with by jump disruptors. Jump distance, 100,000 kilometers, 35 million. The rest is just ammunition. In total, there's just over 100 million left. Eve is like this. Money flows like water. Good items easily cost millions or billions. ISK is just a string of numbers, but it can make you stronger. Compared to reality, it's like 2 different price systems. There's no point of reference for comparison. After the equipment was fitted, Lu Ling summoned the Death Vortex again. The process was very smooth. However, when he returned to the bridge, more than 10 minutes had passed. Although the equipment was cheap, it was mostly fully equipped, forming a basic combat capability. As for the modification parts, they are too expensive and not cost-effective at the moment. Alya, notify that we can return to the mother ship at any time. The collection station. Dark Raven stood by the assault ship, while Bloodshark, Lien, and others were herding nearly 100 injured and dispirited pirate survivors, like driving cattle, into the cargo holds of 3 spacious assault ships. The air was filled with the smell of blood, sweat, and despair. Bloodshark and Ghost Crocodile style of operation had changed somewhat. They were no longer as lax as pirates. Mission accomplished, targets detained, returning home. Dark Raven's cold voice echoed in the channel. The assault ship's engine started, emitting a low hum as it slowly detached from the docking port of the collection station, turning its direction towards the distant Death Vortex, which loomed like a black mountain in the void. The cabin was quiet. The bound pirates huddled in the corner, their eyes vacant. Bloodshark leaned against the wall, subconsciously rubbing the barrel of his Skull Crusher shotgun, lost in thought. Lien closed her eyes to rest, but her slightly trembling eyelashes revealed her inner turmoil. Perhaps because this place used to be a base for the Red Soldiers. The operation was very smooth, even tedious. All resisting targets were ordered to be eliminated by Dark Raven, leaving only the routine journey back to the mothership. Lady Lien? A timid female voice broke the silence. It was Beth, who recognized Lien. This person was Feng Ling's right-hand assistant, so Beth couldn't possibly not know her. The subordinate is from the 3rd Assault Team of the Blade Unit. 3 years ago, during the breakout battle at Colony Satellite Number 46, I followed you to ambush the flank of the Black Sail. Lien finally slowly opened her eyes, the cargo hold lights casting 2 cold glimmers in her icy blue pupils. A slight commotion arose in the cargo hold. Bloodshark let out a cold grunt, the shotgun barrel tapping against the wall with a dull sound. Scott was long dead. And now there were no more Blade units or Crimson Devils. You are all our captives. Bloodshark still didn't know the name of the organization. Just then, the assault boat trembled slightly, captured by the towing device of the Death Vortex, and began to enter the landing deck. A dark blue energy field isolated them from the vacuum of the outside, and when the heavy hatch closed behind them, a suffocating sense of oppression instantly enveloped all the captives. Form a line and get down. Hurry up. Beth, with her hands bound behind her, stumbled along in the middle of the line. She looked up and saw the hangar's vaulted ceiling towering dozens of meters above, the cold white lighting illuminating every inch of the metallic deck. Hurry, don't dawdle. Beth gritted her teeth, her gaze sweeping across her surroundings. Everything here exuded a precision and advancement she had never seen before, leaving her, a pirate struggling to survive in a garbage heap, both shocked and despairing. Aura's voice rang out. All personnel remain in position, prepare for biological scanning. Any resistance will result in immediate disposal. This was a small landing deck located at the tail of the Death Vortex class, a light blue raster sweeping over as the restraints on the captive's wrists lit up. Scan complete. No infectious diseases, no unusual pathogens. Remove armor, transfer to confinement in G2106 section. Bloodshark immediately pointed out a few individuals. You too. Take 20 people and escort the captives over. Temporary authority granted. Aura's voice faded away. The Dark Crow was still watching from a distance. Move. The Thin One barked. The captives were herded through several heavy airtight doors into a narrower passage. The lights suddenly dimmed until the 2-meter diameter alloy door marked G2106 opened, revealing the interior. A corridor about 50 meters long, lined with dozens of small confinement cells. These cells were extremely small, with doors made of transparent glass, allowing a clear view of everything inside. Remove all outer armor and get in. The captives were pushed into the confinement cells, their wrist restraints still in place, each appearing cautious. Beth was shoved into one of the cells. The Thin One, holding her removed exoskeleton, glanced over with a mocking smirk. TSK. Didn't he expect you to enjoy yourself so much? Beth was still wearing the silk pajamas from Foamling. The hatch slowly closed, completely isolating them from the outside. The transparent glass instantly turned pitch black. The small confinement cell plunged into darkness, with only the low hum of the air circulation system. Chapter 112. Clone at this moment. On the bridge of the Death Vortex class ship, Lu Ling sat upright in the captain's seat, his fingertips swiftly gliding across the holographic control interface. As the last piece of equipment was confirmed and assembled, the entire battleship reached a whole new level. Ola, initiate the full self-check procedure. His voice resonated clearly in the spacious bridge. Self-check procedure starting. The main screen on the bridge was instantly covered with dense streams of data. The energy circuits of 14 1,200mm cannons lit up sequentially, and the hydraulic systems of the gun mounts emitted a steady operational sound. Lu Ling specifically brought up the real-time monitoring screen of the weapon systems, observing the turrets distributed throughout the ship were synchronously undergoing adjustments. Each command executed with precision and coordination. Main weapon calibration completed. Ammunition fully loaded. He shifted his gaze to the shield system monitoring interface, where the newly installed large adaptive shield enhancement device was operating at full power, with a rainbow-colored halo swirling around the surface of the shield generator. The adaptive shield enhances resistance to all types of damage. Even a missile barrage from the enemy wouldn't be more than a tickle now. The most astonishing sight was the drone bay's situation. Berserker heavy attack drones and bodyguard sentry drones were neatly arranged in the hangar, with sensors lighting up simultaneously, sparkling like a galaxy. Berserker drone squadron deployed and ready for launch. Bodyguard sentry drone squadron deployed and ready for launch. This scene reminded Lu Ling of a crucial question. Ola, bring up the drone bandwidth interface. Total drone bandwidth, 10,000. Large drones like the Berserker and Bodyguard typically occupy 25 bandwidth units each. Hiss. This means the strike limit for large drones of the Death Vortex class is 400 units. Check the missile launch silos. On the screen, the massive missile silo doors opened rapidly, revealing large whip cruise missiles inside, capable of launching 6 large cruise missiles at a time, with a reload time of 10 seconds. The maximum range of these missiles is approximately 112,000 kilometers, flying at a speed of around 80 kilometers per second, with a maximum flight time of 1,400 seconds. Zavina stood quietly beside Lu Ling, her steel blue eyes reflecting the flowing data on the screen. When she saw the 6 large cruise missile launchers complete their final adjustments, she couldn't help but softly exclaim, "Such firepower is enough to contend with multiple noble Navy fleets." She was the chief experience officer during that missile barrage and came from the prestigious Atari's Knight Academy of the Empire, particularly clear on naval combat after 2 genetic modifications. Noble Navy? Lu Ling asked, simultaneously bringing up the energy system. Are you referring to the enemy? What is the difference between the Noble Navy and the Imperial Navy? The Noble Navy uses active warships that have been retired by the Imperial Navy, and their fleet composition has strict limits. A self-governing territory is only allowed 5 fully staffed fleets to maintain control, Zavina explained. If one has 2 self-governing territories, that would mean 10 fully staffed fleets? Yes. An Imperial Marquis must have at least 2 self-governing territories. And the Imperial Navy? They are only stationed in the wealthiest, directly governed provinces of the Empire. For example, There are only two directly governed provinces in the constellation. One is Karasi and the other is Hells. Typically, they operate in units of legions, such as the Karasi Legion or the Hells Legion. According to the Empire Border Defense Guidelines and Fleet Organization, 50 fully manned fleets make up one legion, and these legions are local legions. In addition, there is the Imperial Karasi Legion, commanded by the governor of the constellation, which consists of 100 fully manned fleets stationed in the capital, Karasi. Therefore, when we initially went to Karasi, it was the safest place. However, Lu Ling knew that there was a traitor on the ship, and it was attacked by pirates. So, does that mean the Imperial Legion is stronger than the local legions? According to the guidelines, yes. The Imperial Legion directly pledges allegiance to the Emperor and is prioritized for the most advanced warships. The voice of Zawena continued. Moreover, above the constellations, there are star sector clusters. For instance, the Imperial 63rd Star Sector Cluster is composed of 50 Imperial Legions. Lu Ling's fingers paused on the holographic interface as his mind raced to calculate the terrifying scale and significance behind this. Finally, he froze, feeling a chill, an overwhelming coldness. One legion has 50 fully manned fleets, totaling 500 warships, and that is just a local second-line legion. The real first-line legions are the Grand Legions, with 100 fully manned fleets, totaling 5,000 warships. And what about the Star Sector clusters? 50 Imperial Legions? 250,000 warships? The Empire has a total of 24 star sectors, which means that the first-line Imperial Navy has at least 6 million warships. And this doesn't even account for the second-line local legions and third-line noble navies. Moreover, this is the Empire, surely. There must be a Royal Navy and a Royal Guard Navy, right? No wonder, after nearly 10,000 years of founding, the Empire has only produced 4 emperors and has stable rule. Lu Ling now had only one question. How does the Empire sustain such a massive military force? Zowena's words stirred ripples in his heart. The power of the Imperial Legions far exceeded his imagination, which made the slight confidence he had gained from the equipment upgrade settle into deeper caution. This Zhuangbai turned out to be just a remote backwater. Parker, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to say that. Lu Ling frowned tightly, contemplating the future direction when the communicator received a voice from Greenleaf. The preliminary analysis results of the Dark Crow's genes have come out. It's best if you come here in person. Lu Ling's spirits lifted, and he immediately stood up. I'll be right there. Zawena, you assist Aura with the self-examination. The biological laboratory of the Death Whirlpool is located in the middle section D39 of the ship, close to the medical area. As the hatch opened, unlike the grand and austere bridge, this place was filled with the faint hum of precision instruments and the scent of sterile oxygen. The silver-white walls were embedded with several holographic displays, showing complex genetic sequences and biological data streams. Greenleaf, dressed in a pristine white lab coat, was standing in front of the main analysis station, rapidly sliding her fingers across the holographic interface to enlarge certain segments. Her 2 female assistants were working in perfect harmony alongside her. The 2 individuals that Lu Ling had seen before were indeed the fearless sisters who had stood their ground during a critical battle. At this moment, the beautiful brows of the green-haired woman were slightly furrowed, her gaze focused, with a hint of surprise and barely perceptible excitement. Upon seeing Lu Ling enter, she immediately pointed to the largest screen in the center. The screen displayed 2 extremely complex double helix structures in a holographic projection, slowly rotating side by side. One was labeled Dark Crow Sample. The other was labeled Standard Human Baseline Empire E. The 2 appeared similar, but on the genetic chain of Dark Crow, countless nodes flickered with an exceptionally bright, almost blinding golden light, with a structure as intricate as a star map, while the baseline model was relatively simple. Lu Ling felt dizzy as he looked at it. He had not yet learned the relevant skills, and the biological enhancement and skill books were prohibitively expensive. I conducted ultra-deep sequencing and cross-lineage comparisons of his blood and DNA samples. The green-haired woman spoke quickly. The results far exceeded expectations. His genes have undergone a form of extremely complex and precise reprogramming and sequence embedding. She magnified a specific area where several gene clusters were distinctly different from the baseline. Her voice was filled with astonishment. His neuron's synaptic transmission efficiency and information parallel processing capability are extremely strong, which means he possesses almost prophetic battlefield intuition, terrifying information processing speed, and combat reflexes. She switched to another marked point, where the gene sequences exhibited a highly aggressive spiral structure. Here, we have gene clusters related to muscle fiber microcontrol and energy metabolism. His muscle fiber density and energy instantaneous conversion efficiency are very high, while the accumulation speed of fatigue metabolites is suppressed to the limit. This endows him with extraordinary precision control, short-term explosive power, and endurance for executing high-precision tasks. She continued to switch through several views, each more astonishing than the last. Telomerase activity-related gene clusters are activated by multiple locks, theoretically allowing for an almost unlimited number of cell divisions, significantly slowing the aging process. Coupled with powerful immune surveillance and DNA damage repair capabilities. As long as the stored functions are sufficient, general injuries can almost heal instantly. Taking a deep breath, the green-haired woman looked at Lu Ling with a serious expression. Where did you find this person? All his genetic sequences are born for combat. He is not a natural human. He is the ultimate product of deep modification through top-tier biotechnology. The level of modification involves the coordinated expression and sequence embedding of millions of genes, the technological foundation and resource investment of which I cannot imagine. What is his gene rating according to the Empire? Lu Ling asked. C, and it specializes in combat, she replied. In real combat, he may not be inferior to a specialized B rating. His active gene enhancement sequence count reaches 36, far exceeding the 20 found in the Empire C rating. And all are high-level combat sequence capabilities. Lu Ling felt somewhat dazed. 200,000 can buy AC. What does that make my alpha? Which I spent 5 million to modify. The green-haired woman, being very knowledgeable in this area, quickly filtered out a portion of the list for detailed introduction, revealing dozens of active sequences. I now believe he might really come from the Federation. Works of this level are usually only used for executing the highest difficulty infiltration, decapitation, and intelligence missions. Throwing him into a pile of pirates is simply, she seemed to be searching for the right word. Wasteful, right? Lu Ling interjected, his gaze shifting away from the stunning genetic map on the screen. It was Greenleaf who voiced the confusion. Then why did I feel completely different when you first arrived? Ha ha ha. Lu Ling suddenly laughed. Because I am a time traveler. Having stayed up since the origin era 60,000 years ago, and then slept until now. TSK. Greenleaf rolled his eyes at him, not wanting to respond. Sigh. People's hearts are so indifferent. Now even the truth is not believed. So perfect? Lu Ling returned to the main topic. Are there any drawbacks? Of course, emotions, desires, and reproductive genes have all been cut out. He cannot reproduce through normal means, and this genetic blueprint cannot be replicated with my current knowledge. Lu Ling's gaze returned to the holographic screen displaying the test report, and a bold idea suddenly sprouted in his mind. I'll give you some samples and technology. You can study them in depth. Oh, Greenleaf raised an eyebrow, somewhat surprised. You trust me that much? You can't escape. Lu Ling pointed to the ground beneath them. All right, I guess I'm in your hands for this life. Huh, what about your mother? I sent her to live in Carthage. She didn't have an identity before. But thanks to you, Parker personally sent someone to help her obtain citizenship yesterday. Now she has the best caregivers. Parker is a decent person, easy to get along with. Lu Ling nodded in agreement. Staying on the ship all the time isn't good, and it would be nice to occasionally go to Carthage to relax and see your mother. Yes, my captain. Just then, the round figure of Aura brought over some materials that Lu Ling had prepared long ago. What's this? Greenleaf took a copy. Looking at Lu Ling with a puzzled expression, Lu Ling said solemnly, Cloning, real cloning. Chapter 113, Elimination in the Death Spiral class. The confinement room is located in the lowest deck of section G21 at the rear. The lighting here is dimmer than in other areas, and the air circulation system seems intentionally reduced in power. The chubby and thin brothers stand guard at the door, appearing somewhat bored. The chubby one is using a dagger to clean the grime from under his nails, while the thin one leans against the wall, tossing and catching an energy cell absent-mindedly. With no orders, they have to stand guard here. Time flows particularly slowly in the lower levels of this giant ship. The faint hissing sound of the door sliding open breaks the silence. Both men perk up and immediately stand straight, and upon seeing who has arrived, their faces instantly display obsequious respect. Captain. Lu Ling nodded slightly, the little Dragon King smirking. So in the end, you decided to stick with me? That is what the captain said. The chubby one immediately bent at the waist, saying, We brothers will follow you for life, ready to face fire and water without hesitation. The thin one vigorously nodded beside him, almost dropping the energy cell in his hand. The next second, Lien walked in and silently saluted Lu Ling. This scene was strikingly similar to when Lu Ling first arrived and was detained. Only now, the tides had turned, and everything had reversed. This is the most authentic portrayal of power and strength. Still thinking about Fengling? Lu Ling's voice was like a devil's whisper. Are you thinking of her? Or her body? Lien's body stiffened imperceptibly for a moment. She slowly shook her head, her gaze lowered to the cold deck, her voice calm. I'm not thinking about her anymore. The Lien who was loyal to Fengling is already dead at the lonely grave base. Upon hearing this, Lu Ling showed little expression on her face and said no more. Nodding slightly to the heavy-set man, the man immediately understood and hurriedly input the unlock command on the control panel by the door. With a hiss, the airtight door slowly slid open, and a rush of even colder air poured out, carrying a hint of disinfectant. The black glass rooms instantly became transparent. revealing every movement inside, with nowhere to hide. Beth curled up in the corner of the bed, hugging her knees. The interior of the confinement room was small and empty, with only a fixed alloy bed and an integrated cleaning unit. Cold white light poured down from the ceiling without any cover, completely enveloping her, leaving her nowhere to escape. The slightly luxurious silk nightgown she wore seemed so thin and ridiculous at this moment, completely out of place in this cold, grim environment. The brief comfort of overlooking the starry sky from the top of the collection station a week ago now felt as distant as a fleeting dream. Until darkness fell. Footsteps echoed at the door. Beth suddenly looked up, her heart racing. She didn't know what fate awaited her. The first figure that came into view was a young man with black hair and black eyes, followed by another person behind him. It was Lien. Beth's pupils suddenly constricted, and the color drained from her face in an instant. How could she not recognize this face? This was Feng Ling's most trusted aide, a core figure of high status among the Red Soldiers, the woman who silently executed orders with eyes as sharp as ice. They may not have spoken directly, but during those years with the Red Devil, Beth had seen that cold face countless times from a distance during gatherings or in battle reports. For peripheral members like them, Lien was a towering presence, representing Feng Ling's will. What about Feng Ling? Is she dead? Now Lien is actually bowing to this man. A wave of despair colder than the confinement room gripped Beth's heart. The illusion that she had merely encountered another powerful pirate force was completely shattered. Indeed, which pirate has a battleship? Feng Ling was probably already dead. Lu Ling walked in front of her, looking down at the woman whose eyes were filled with fear, anxiety, and utter confusion. Lien presented the report. Beth, and right? Lu Ling slowly began. You were mingling on the outskirts of the Red Devil, got separated, survived for 3 years scavenging with a dozen sisters in a junkyard, gathered a broken ship, and then wanted to ally with Feng Ling? Beth's body trembled violently. Clearly, her sisters had revealed everything. Her voice was so dry that it was almost inaudible. Lu Ling crouched down, his eyes scrutinizing her. Beth felt her throat tighten. The pressure this man exerted was even greater than Lien's. Do you want to live or die? Beth suddenly lifted her head, her eyes filled with disbelief and extreme fear. She had no doubt about the other party's abilities. Her lips trembled as survival instinct overpowered everything else. We are willing to follow you. Please give us a way to survive. All pride and determination were crushed in the face of this primal urge to live. Lu Ling stood up, her expression unreadable, and instructed Lien, change their clothes and take her to the trainee crew quarters. Everyone we recruited today will be trained by the Dark Crow, including you. Yes, Captain. Lien replied calmly, without any objections, her gaze coldly looking at the crumpled Beth for the first time. Lu Ling had already turned to leave. Get up, Lien said indifferently. Beth immediately scrambled to her feet, standing in front of her. Lien looked at the familiar silk nightgown, her eyes wavering. Strip. Huh. Strip. Beth shuddered and instantly complied. On the comprehensive training deck, F-12 launch deck. The Death Vortex class has a total of 8 compartments, each with decks varying from the 20th to the 72nd floor. This space is vast, about 500 square meters, serving as one of the drone launch decks, with cold light pouring down from the giant overhead lighting array, illuminating every corner. Bloodshark, Lien, and Beth, who had just changed into her new uniform along with her subordinates, joined over 300 others, including former Red Guards, pirates, all standing in what they believed to be a neat formation. The Dark Crow stood at the forefront of everyone. The standard power armor of the Empire glinted under the cold light of the training ground, and the scarlet optical visor emotionlessly scanned the disorganized recruits. An invisible, almost tangible coldness radiated from him, quickly silencing the previously restless group. Record, standard Imperial new recruit assembly time, 7 seconds. You took 41 seconds. Efficiency decreased by 990. A few uneasy swallowing sounds echoed through the ranks. Bloodshark instinctively tried to straighten his slightly slouched shoulders, while Lien's gaze lowered slightly. With 6 members of the Falling Goose Guard standing motionless behind her, elite troops formerly under Feng Ling, Beth stood at the back of the line, her fingers nervously curling. Now dressed in the trainee crew uniform, the Dark Crow scanned the group. Now, we will conduct an adaptive screening. Adaptive screening? Some were confused. However, before they could think it through, all the lights on the F-12 deck suddenly went out, plunging everything into complete darkness. At the same time, a buzzing sound arose, and everyone heard the mechanical whirring, with only the seasoned pirates tightening instinctively. It was the warning signal before the interception cable launch. A beam of light illuminated the farthest door. A sense of dread gripped Bloodshark as his long-honed instinct for danger kicked in. This is bad. Spread out. But it was already too late. In the darkness, dozens of metallic interceptors shot out from the deck's crevices with a piercing shriek, slicing through the air and leaving a thin, deadly glimmer in the dark. A scream echoed. Someone lagging behind had their legs severed, collapsing to the ground. In an instant, Their eyes bulged with blood, and after a brief numbness, excruciating pain surged into their brain, unleashing a horrifying wail. Duck, don't want to die? An old pirate nearby quickly pressed the person's head down to the ground, narrowly avoiding a shadow that skimmed past. Losing hands and legs can be treated. But if the mind is gone, that's truly the end. Lien reacted the fastest. The moment darkness descended, she crouched low and dashed towards the exit. The other 6 members of the falling Goose Guard followed closely behind. Having faced real life and death situations, this was hardly a challenge for them. Beth hesitated for a moment, then gritted her teeth and called to her sisters. Hurry, keep up. A scream pierced the air, startling Beth. Grab me. However, the next moment, a fierce wind swept through, and she felt her body lighten before crashing heavily to the ground. She could no longer feel her legs. Lien was the first to step into the light circle. The cold voice of the dark crow echoed in the darkness, like the whisper of death. There are 249 slots remaining. Bloodshark immediately broke into a cold sweat. Boss, someone nearby exclaimed. Take care of yourself. Bloodshark roared. Damn it, there's a limit on slots. This meant that some would inevitably die. As the last person, bloodied and crawling, rushed through the light gate, the interceptors suddenly halted. The deck was illuminated again, with the dark crow standing beside the light gate. Over 300 people, but only 250 escape slots were available, and 6 had already died or were incapacitated. The remaining individuals were mostly rendered incapable of standing, blood flowing like a river. Some had completely fainted, while others gritted their teeth to hold on. They dared not cry out, for they did not know if the dark crow would kill them. Battlefield drones arrived to lift each person and transport them to the medical area. Today's training was over. Tomorrow, the slots would be reduced to 200. The voice of the dark crow resonated on the deck. 2 eliminations, and you die. Clearly, he was fervently executing Commander Lu Ling's training orders. In his eyes, if it weren't for the Commander's demands, these inefficient units had no value. In the observation room, Lu Ling stood behind the window. Zavina asked softly, Isn't this too harsh? Everyone's genetic levels and basics vary greatly. Harsh. Fair. These people were pirates, greedy, cruel, bloodthirsty, with countless innocent lives lost on their hands. Lu Ling's gaze was deep. If roles were reversed, would they spare us? Being captured means losing. In truth, the Dark Crow was right. This was no different from when I first arrived or when we fled the Shattered Star Vortex. Even a slight mistake could mean death. Genetic levels are no excuse. This is the universe, and the universe shows no mercy to the weak. If one wishes to survive, this is the path that must be taken. He turned around. Time to set off, returning to Carthage. If there was no system and Feng Ling had caught him from the very beginning, perhaps the moment Wang Xi appeared, he would have already died quietly like those eliminated individuals below. After all, in the Empire, inferior beings are not worthy of survival in the universe. Chapter 114. Sealer in the 63rd star zone of the Paisha Empire, in the Kashi constellation, at the border of the Zhuangbai Autonomous Region, lies the 72nd Agricultural Colonial Satellite, official designation, AgriHub 72 Breadbasket. This is an extremely remote agricultural satellite, located 266 Australian dollars away from a certain planet. It quietly curls up in the depths of an eternally cold ice belt, where the sun that provides light and heat to the inner system is merely a particularly bright star. From the outside, the breadbasket resembles a massive and intricate beehive. Dozens of enormous agricultural domes are attached to the main structure, wrapped in thick composite armor and interwoven support frameworks. Countless indicator lights flicker on its surface, pulsating like breathing, representing numerous sensors, communication arrays, and drone access points. Occasionally, spacecraft take off and land among them, with the ethereal blue glow of engine exhaust drawing brief and clear trajectories against the absolute darkness, becoming the only dynamic embellishment in this dead silence. Sealer pressed his face against the cold viewport of the gray Weasel transport ship, watching as the behemoth known as the breadbasket gradually enlarged in his field of vision. The cabin was packed tightly with 5-seat arrangements, filled with noisy chatter. Next to him sat a middle-aged man who was quite talkative. Cough. How many years have you signed a contract with the Zhuangbai Photosynthesis Seed Group? Sealer came back to his senses. His appearance had changed significantly, and all the wanted notices from Zhuangbai only matched DNA. 5 years. 5 years. Hey, bold move, in this godforsaken place. The man gave a thumbs up, then stroked his chin as if calculating. 5 years. Well, basic salary plus full attendance performance, considering the remote allowance, after food and drink. You could probably walk away with around 4 to 5 million, right? His tone carried a sense of pride and nostalgia from someone who had been there. I was here 2 years ago, worked for a full 2 years. Couldn't stand it anymore and left with 1.8 million. This place is really not fit for humans. Sealer followed up with a question. Then why did you come back? A hint of embarrassment flickered across the man's face. He chuckled awkwardly and rubbed his fingers together. Carthage is just too damn comfortable. You throw money there, and you won't hear a sound. Unlike here, if you want to spend, there's no place to do it. You can only save it in your pocket. He seemed to want to prove something, or perhaps just wanted to share, quickly opening his wrist device to pull up a holographic photo, bringing it close to Sealer's eyes. The photo featured a gentle-looking woman and two smiling children, with a sunny beach in a habitable city of Carthage in the background, creating a stark contrast to the endless darkness outside. The man's tone mixed pride and helplessness. Finally becoming a citizen of Carthage, I have to save up for their tuition. Damn it. Otherwise, who would want to come to this hellhole to suffer? Sealer looked at the photo in silence. This ordinary concern felt too distant from his past filled with deceit and bloodshed. He could only respond dryly. Yeah, that's nice. Good for nothing, just creditors. The man laughed and scolded as he turned off the wristband, but the soft expression from that moment lingered on his face. Just then, the gray weasel shook slightly, and the docking procedure began. The voice of the crew came through the broadcast. We have arrived at the breadbasket, AGR-7 docking port. Cargo personnel and those with one-way service contracts prepare to disembark. A reminder, this station is the only designated supply station for the Zhuangbai Border Ecological Reconstruction Group and the 4th and 7th Border Outposts. It is under military management, so please adhere to the relevant rules and regulations. The man nudged Sella with his elbow and lowered his voice. Did you hear that? It's safe here with the border fleet around. You signed for 5 years, so just focus on working hard and save enough to go home. The airtight door hissed open. Everyone shouldered their bags and queued to enter. The man stood at the front, occasionally looking back at Sella. Hey, Koff. Hope we get assigned to a decent area. I'll teach you how to operate those annoying machines. The security checkpoint was crowded. Sella left the queue under Koff's surprised gaze. Koff, where are you going? The later you queue, the worse the remaining positions will be. The man shouted, but Sella waved his hand without looking back, heading towards a side path leading to the lower area of the docking port. Following the instructions, he quickly walked down a metal staircase and arrived at the area marked Equipment Maintenance Level 7. There were hardly any passengers here. Just a few technicians in work uniforms hurriedly pushing tool carts, indifferent to his presence. Reaching a corner marked Unauthorized Personnel Prohibited from Entering Pressure Regulator Valve Group. A man in Zhuangbai border security uniform was leaning against the wall, holding a nearly burnt-out cigarette between his fingers, exhaling smoke. He looked to be in his 30s, with a pallor hinting at long night shifts, and the insignia on his uniform showed he was a district technical supervisor. Hearing footsteps, he lazily raised his eyelids, casting a sidelong glance at the approaching Sella. Koff. Yeah. Sella stopped. Follow me. The man casually gestured towards a nondescript emergency maintenance passage with the hand holding the cigarette, then stepped inside first. Sella followed closely behind. The passage door closed behind them, completely isolating the external noise. The space was cramped, resembling an entrance for small mechanical operations, with thick pipes and wiring covering the walls, emitting a low-energy hum. After walking for about 10 minutes, they reached a door marked Maintenance Passage. The man stopped, turned around, tossed the cigarette butt to the ground, and extinguished it with his boot before extending his hand towards Sella, palm up, the meaning clear. Sella took out an anonymous encrypted data chip from his pocket and placed it in the man's hand, containing a total of 10 million credit points. The man pulled out a portable reader and inserted the chip. A series of numbers rapidly scrolled across the screen before finally settling. He carefully verified the amount, and the lazy expression on his face finally shifted slightly, revealing a hint of satisfaction. Give it to me. The man pulled out a standard biometric collector from his pocket, its odd shape clearly indicating it was non-standard. He grabbed Sella's wrist and aimed the device at his fingertip. A slight sting followed, and the indicator light on the device switched from red to green. The sample had been collected. The man glanced at the feedback information on the reader, which now displayed the name, Darscaf, and the genetic sequence matched perfectly with the records stored in the chip. As for where the real Koff had gone, that remained a mystery. Go in through the security check at Backup Passage 7. It leads directly to Cradle Town. Koff's contract still has 5 years remaining. The man reached out to verify at the door, and moments later, the maintenance passage door opened. Sella stepped inside. A voice came from behind. Remember, the man's tone was warning, you have never been here, nor have you seen me. Live quietly as Koff for 5 years, collect your money, and leave. If you cause trouble that implicates us. Watching the increasingly distant figure, the man took out a cigarette, took a deep puff, and exhaled a long stream of smoke. Damn it, 10 million just to come to this hellhole for 5 years of work? Even fugitives are spending big now. Sella heard the sound of the maintenance door closing behind him again. After another 10 minutes, he reached an internal security check passage marked as 7, which was unattended. A soft electronic female voice announced, identity confirmed, Darscaf, level 7 agricultural technology specialist. Welcome back to Breadbasket. Mr. Koff, your residency privileges have been verified. Destination, Cradle Town. Residential Area 7, Unit B14, please proceed. As he passed through, the gate opened, revealing a brightly lit, clean passage that was a stark contrast to the rough maintenance area he had just come from. The smell of machine oil was gone, replaced by a faint scent of plants, a hallmark of the internal circulation system of the colonial satellite. The identity information he had purchased flashed through Sella's mind. It seemed that the KOF identity he bought for 300 star coins was not just an ordinary contractor, but a mid-level personnel with certain technical and management privileges, meaning he wouldn't have to squeeze into the lower-level worker dormitories. Having cleared security, he officially stepped into the interior of Breadbasket's Cradle Town. As the exit gate opened, the scene before him was suddenly expansive. He stood on a wide, high-ceilinged circular walkway. Below the walkway was a giant artificial ecological dome, mimicking the twilight of a habitable planet. Soft artificial sunlight poured down from the high dome, illuminating the park, streams, and small patches of woodland below. In the distance, buildings were constructed against the dome wall, layered and staggered, many with spacious balconies and private terraces. Further away was a vast open farm. This place housed 100,000 permanent residents and 200,000 contract workers. Compared to the eternal silent darkness outside, this area was filled with the hustle and bustle of life. Following the signs, Sella boarded a quiet small commuter vehicle. The carriage was empty, and he could hear the distant laughter of children, the rhythmic music coming from the balconies of the buildings on either side, and the faint hum of small electric transport vehicles gliding along the road. Workers finishing their shifts strolled through the park in comfortable casual clothes, chatting at the outdoor cafe, while a giant screen displayed news and entertainment from Carthage, reminding people of their faint connection to the inner systems. As he passed through the small town, he saw schools, a medical center, and even a sizable commercial street and entertainment center. Everything here appeared orderly and, one could say, quite comfortable. This was the clean identity he had purchased with 300 star coins and 10 million credit points, although he could only stay here for 5 years. The commuter vehicle finally stopped in front of a residential building that had a minimalist but high-quality appearance. Unit B14 was on the middle floor, and he used his new identity wristband to unlock the door. It was a spacious single suite with a separate living room, bedroom, a well-equipped kitchenette, and a balcony that offered a partial view of the Central Park. The furniture was simple and practical, the refrigerator was empty, and the air circulation system operated quietly. He tossed the lightweight bag onto the sofa, walked to the balcony, gazed at the scene outside, and took a deep breath. This was the starting point. From this moment on, he was no longer Sela, but agricultural technology specialist Darshkaf. He needed to familiarize himself with his work, maintain his identity, and live here. At that moment, the wristband vibrated slightly. Commissioner Darshkaf, welcome home. Your new position has been assigned. District 7, LK19 Fruit and Vegetable Operations Area. Leader of the Aeroponic Crop Optimization Team. Community notice for Cradle Town. A welcome market will be held at Central Park at 2000 hours today, welcoming new residents to participate. Sela turned off the notification and looked again at the artificial sunlight, green forests, and lakes outside, murmuring to himself, Old Snake, I am finally free. I will wait for you here. Chapter 115. The Elder, a luxury hovercar, emerged from the high-speed corridor 2 kilometers away from the castle by Lake Khalifa. Joao Batik leaned against the soft seat in the rear cabin, peering through the window at the shimmering lake and buildings bathed in golden light, his expression indifferent. That kid Parker really doesn't understand or is just pretending not to, Batik murmured, a hint of gloom flashing in his aged but sharp eyes. He was dressed in a finely tailored, splendid attire of the Parthian nobility, with the cuff embroidered with the emblem of the Joao family, a one-eyed eagle. However, only upon closer inspection could one notice that the eagle's claws tightly gripped a ring of power, symbolizing his status as a Joao elder. As the most senior representative of the business faction within the Joao Elder Council, Batik's branch had controlled the banking and financial trade of Joao for generations. Now, he couldn't fathom why Parker had decided to allocate 500 million star coins in cash to collaborate with an unidentified guest. In his eyes, this was a sign of madness. Batik extended his hand out the window, feeling the cool, pure lake breeze brush against his fingers. The setting sun cast its warm glow upon the ancient ring on his index finger, reflecting a heavy golden sheen. He recalled the financial brief he received that morning. The transaction of 500 million star coins felt like a knife twisting in his heart. Money has never fallen from the sky. This sum was enough to purchase 7 cruisers or 1 battlecruiser. Yet Parker had casually given it to the mysterious guest residing at the lakeside fortress. The hovercar glided smoothly along the dedicated lane, but Batik's gaze grew increasingly cold. Parker, oh Parker, Batik gently shook his head, a hint of regret flashing in his eyes. You are still too young. The scepter of Zhuangbai is not something you can wield based on your personal whims at this moment. As the hovercar was about to exit the high-speed lane, Batik took one last look in the direction of the lakeside fortress. Activate the secret line of the Security Bureau to investigate, he instructed his assistant in the front seat. His voice low. I want to know who resides in the fortress. A transaction involving 500 million star coins cannot involve an unknown person. Yes, sir. The assistant replied respectfully, immediately beginning to communicate quietly. Batik leaned back in his seat and closed his eyes. Fragments of yellowed memories flashed through his mind. When Parker was young, he had taught him to read interstellar exchange rate charts, and the boy's cleverness and eagerness to learn had made him proud. Even more so than his own nephews. People always change. Once they have power, they desire more authority. Parker, Uncle does not wish to reach this point with you. We can tolerate matters involving pirates, but if you take money from our pockets, I will ensure you understand that no one can undermine the supreme interests of the Elders' Council. Sir, the assistant's voice hesitated slightly. I just received news from the estate. The lady reminded me that the Count is hosting a family dinner at Triumph Fortress tonight. Batik's closed eyes suddenly opened wide, the faint warmth from his memories instantly dissipating, replaced by a deeper, sharper intensity. A family dinner? He repeated slowly. At such a sensitive moment, with Parker having just diverted 500 million and his side about to launch an investigation, the Count calls for a family dinner? Batik felt this was more like a carefully arranged chess game. Tell the secret line that I must obtain a preliminary report on that guest. Even if it's just a code name or a vague background. I don't want to be blind at the dining table. Sir. The Count did not invite you, nor have other elders been informed. It's just a small family gathering. Batik took a slow breath, leaning slightly forward. His gaze fixed on the back of the assistant's neck. If you weren't my nephew, I would send you to the breadbasket to farm tomorrow. Sorry, uncle. On the east terrace of the Halifa River Fortress, a gentle breeze blew as Lu Ling had just sat down at the lakeside dining table. Zindalin was placing several exquisite dishes on the table, and the warm aroma of the food filled the air. Zavina sat to his right, sitting upright. Her steel blue eyes habitually scanning the surrounding lake and sky, her peripheral vision alert. Woo, boss. You are so good to me. This smells amazing. The claw of the fork held tightly, precisely spearing a large piece of roasted meat that was crispy and juicy, then stuffing it whole into her mouth, making her cheeks puff up instantly as she squinted her eyes in satisfaction. Slow down, no one is competing with you. Lu Ling did not lift her head. Her gaze fixed on the passengers displayed on the system. She was in urgent need of manpower, and the technical threshold for cloning in the marketplace was high. Whether it was a cloning pod or a tactical clone, it was beyond their current economic capabilities. Therefore, she could only summon passengers once again. Zavina frowned slightly, her gaze shifting from the lake back to the greasy corner of Chin's mouth and the waving fork, with a hint of helplessness. This isn't home. Please pay attention to your dining etiquette. Exactly, Vela echoed from the side, despite her own plate being quite full. Chin struggled to swallow the meat in her mouth and made a face at Zavina, but somewhat restrained her actions. Just then, a low and powerful engine roar echoed above the manor, as a sleek, luxurious flying car adorned with the Giant Belly family crest landed gracefully on the outer helipad. The cabin door slid open, and Parker stepped out. Cindeline had been waiting for a long time, leading the way to bring Parker to the eastern terrace. Hey, Lu Ling noticed that Parker was wearing a very formal dark suit today, making him look even taller and more composed, with less flamboyance and more of the calm and low-key demeanor befitting an heir. Upon seeing Lu Ling, he immediately broke into a warm, yet measured smile and walked over briskly. Your Excellency Lu Ling, it seems you really like it here. Parker's tone was sincere. You returned too quickly. If it weren't for the port notification, I wouldn't have known you had arrived. Parker's gaze quickly scanned the terrace, taking in Chin's puffed cheeks, the bones in front of Vela, Zavina's watchful eyes, and the nearly untouched food in front of Lu Ling. His smile remained, but with a hint of just the right amount of apology, he sincerely added, It seems I have come at an inconvenient time, interrupting your leisure with your subordinates. His posture was very humble, lacking the airs of a Giant Belly heir, resembling more a friend who had intruded uninvited. You're being too polite, Mr. Parker. It's just a simple dinner, not a disturbance. Parker's smile faded slightly, becoming more serious. He stepped forward, his voice clear and sincere. There is indeed an important matter. My father learned that I made a new friend and specially arranged a family dinner at the Triumph Fortress, hoping to dine with you. He emphasized the words family dinner, which carried weight and intimacy, making the air on the terrace seem to freeze for a moment. Zavina's gaze sharpened, and both Vela and Chin forgot to chew, their eyes widening as they looked at Parker. This was an imperial noble in her eyes, a presence that was hard to even behold in one's lifetime, and now, he was inviting their leader to dinner? Indeed, their leader's battleship had intimidated them. Chin instinctively straightened her back, trying to make her eating posture more noble. Her ears perked up, afraid of missing a single word. Lu Ling actually doesn't like these noble banquets very much, but as long as there are mutual benefits, these gatherings are essential and unavoidable. After all, throughout a person's life, There are basic needs such as clothing, food, and shelter, or even more upscale versions of them. Clothing is the foundation. Food comes second. Lu Ling's gaze flickered over Parker's sincere face and seemingly casually swept across the distant vehicle that showcased supreme power. He pondered for a moment, realizing he could only give up on summoning the passenger for now, and then decisively agreed. In that case, I will trouble you tonight. Upon hearing this, a brighter and more relaxed smile immediately blossomed on Parker's face. That's wonderful. My father will surely be delighted to know you have agreed. He stepped aside and made an elegant gesture inviting Lu Ling to enter. As for whether he was hungry or not, that was never the core of the invitation. Lu Ling stood up and looked at Shi Weina. I'll leave this to you. Notify the blood shark to speed up the progress. Understood. Shi Weina replied with a calm nod. Chapter 116. Starcoin. The streamlined luxury air vehicle glided into the dust clouds of Carthage Star, leaving the tranquility of the castle by Halifa Lake far below in the lush greenery. Parker poured a glass for Lu Ling, his gaze sweeping over the gradually receding lake view outside the window, his tone naturally carrying a hint of emotion. It seems that your excellency truly enjoys the scenery of Halifa Lake. It's a place that calms the mind. Upon hearing this, Parker's smile grew even wider. In that case, I will gift you the castle by the lake as your residence in Carthage. Everything there will serve you, and I hope you will feel comfortable living there. A trace of surprise flashed in Lu Ling's eyes, devoid of any insincere politeness. He simply nodded slightly. I will remember this gift. As long as your excellency likes it, Parker replied, leaning back in his seat contentedly. The air vehicle continued its smooth flight, with the lights of the city of Wanbei gradually coming to life below, the bustling brilliance spreading like a river of stars across the ground. Lu Ling casually swirled the liquid in his glass, his gaze fixed on the vast city outside, and asked, the prosperity of Wanbei is astonishing. Is every autonomous region in the empire like this? Parker pondered for a moment, shook his head, his tone carrying a barely perceptible pride and comparison. The empire's territory is vast. Wanbei started with trade, and the starships and goods flow are our lifeblood, so it naturally appears more prosperous. However, he shifted his tone, and it became complex. If we talk about influence, we nobles cannot compare to Karasi and Hells. That is truly the heart of the Corsi constellation. Why is that? Is it because the empire has concentrated development in those two provinces within the Corsi constellation? Parker shook his head, looking out at the dazzling lights, his lips curling into a slight bitterness. Wealth is true wealth. Unimaginable wealth. He turned to Lu Ling, his expression serious. In the entire empire, all wealthy star systems are directly governed provinces, managed directly by the Imperial Council and the Emperor's cabinet. We nobles are merely scraping by in the barren fringe star regions. Wealthy star systems? Lu Ling leaned back against the comfortable chair, his thoughts racing. Could it be that the wealth logic of this universe is similar to that of Eve, based on security levels? Parker suddenly thought of something, a shadow passing over his face, and his tone became a bit somber. If it weren't for the disaster event at the Zhoao Bay 15164 site, our family would definitely be controlling far more resources than today, and perhaps we would have more say in the Imperial Council, allowing us to collaborate further. The Zhoao Bay 15164 disaster event refers to the current coordinates of Blackwater Bay, which is said to have evolved from the collapse of a refinery. The core standard for the Empire to evaluate the value of a star system is the number and scale of gravitational mirages within its range. Parker's voice calmed down, and the only output of gravitational mirages is the Mirage Crystal Mine. Lu Ling felt a shiver. He knew about the Mirage Crystal Mine. It is the sole material used for minting star coins. Star coins, as an almost perfect energy carrier and value medium, can be almost equivalently converted into any form of energy or material as long as the relevant conversion technology is mastered. Parker did not notice the subtle psychological activity of Lu Ling and continued to explain. There are only 3 pioneer mints in the entire empire, and all the mine Mirage crystals must go to these 3 mints to be turned into star coins. We are more of the miners and operators, rather than true controllers. Lu Ling caught the key information in his words and slowly spoke, uncovering the Zhoao Bay family's biggest predicament at the moment. So, after that disaster, the Zhoao Bay family can now only stably mine from 1 gravitational mirage. That's correct. Parker smiled self-deprecatingly. We nobles are just playing on the edge of barrenness. Provinces directly governed, like Colossi and Hells, each have at least 20 gravitational mirages. Lu Ling's gaze fluctuated, and his heart finally stirred with a ripple. Finally, he understood why there was such a significant gap between the nobles and the regular Imperial Navy. 1 versus 20. This was not just a difference in numbers, but a vast disparity in scale, foundation, and the power of discourse within the Imperial framework. Lu Ling's gaze turned once more to the window, as the flying car began to descend. In the distance, the silhouette of the triumphal fortress, which symbolizes the peak of the Zhoao Bay family's power, began to emerge. Your Excellency, I have been studying the ancient culture of Longhua and stumbled upon a proverb. Parker suddenly spoke, his tone extremely serious and solemn. Please share. The dragon lurks in the depths, hidden in the light. Lu Ling was slightly taken aback, then smiled. Ha! Thank you for your guidance. I will remember this. At this point, the flying car had significantly lowered its altitude and slowed down, and the scenery before them opened up, instantly dispersing the somewhat heavy atmosphere of their earlier conversation. The full view of the triumphal fortress unfolded in the twilight. Its gray-white stone walls dyed a warm golden color by the setting sun, exuding a sense of calm that has weathered many storms. Ivy climbed the western fortress wall, its deep green leaves gently swaying in the evening breeze. The estate was distributed along the hillside, with the main fortress's spire rising into the darkening sky, its tiles made of locally unique dark slate, glistening with moisture from years of rain. The rose garden on the west wing was in full bloom, the deep red sea of flowers appearing even more vibrant in the twilight, with the gardener having just watered them, the leaves still shimmering with tiny droplets. The hovercraft slowly descended in front of the courtyard square of the main castle. Lu Ling noticed a stone tablet partially covered by ivy at the edge of the square, with some ancient inscriptions on it, likely the sayings of the ancestors of the family. Lu Ling pushed open the car door, and the evening air carried the unique moisture of the mountains. On the terrace of the main castle, several attendants were lighting the lanterns on the stone railing, the flickering flames illuminating the herbs planted in terracotta pots. He looked up at the highest terrace of the castle, where a dining table was already set, the glassware reflecting faintly in the dimming light. His father liked to spend time there during sunset, Parker said softly as he walked towards the main door along the stone steps, mentioning that from this angle, one could see how the lights of the city gradually lit up one by one. Indeed, Parker appeared exceptionally solemn at this moment. The heavy oak doors of the castle slowly opened from the inside, warm yellow light spilling out. An elderly man dressed in traditional butler attire stood at the edge of the door, slightly bowing. Welcome to the castle, esteemed guest from afar, the old man said gently. The Count is waiting for you on the terrace. Lu Ling took one last glance at the sun completely sinking below the horizon, leaving only a deep purple glow in the sky. The lights of the entire estate were now fully lit, resembling stars scattered across the mountains. He stepped into the porch, the wooden floorboards creaking slightly underfoot, bearing witness to the traces of this ancient estate's more than 2,000 years of history. Chapter 117. The Fearsome Hunter in Blackwater Bay. A dilapidated small boat sluggishly followed behind a cargo ship, squeezing out from the safe navigation route. This small boat was the TriStar, its hull covered in burn and impact marks, the engine sound as if it could stall at any moment. Damn it. Even the small boat I used for mining back in the day is better than this piece of junk, Bloodshark cursed, focused. I'm really afraid this thing will fall apart midway, and we'll end up lost in Blackwater Bay. Beside him, Ghost Crocodile checked his weapons with an expressionless face, only replying faintly, as long as we can make it before it falls apart. This boat is inconspicuous enough. That was precisely why they chose the TriStar. Their mission this time was to be low-key, fast, and precise in completing their task. As soon as they left the edge of the Shattered Star whirlpool, Bloodshark immediately drove the old boat into the slaughterhouse at the bottom level. A week ago, Rachel's destruction was still fresh in memory, but it seemed Blackwater Bay couldn't be bothered, merely patching up the bottom gate. Here, remnants of the last fierce battle and cold corpses could still be seen. Bloodshark roughly shoved the TriStar into a barely dockable gap, threw on a dirty, oversized coat that covered most of his face and weapon outline. Let us go. He and Ghost Crocodile moved like shadows, using their armor's jet ports to fly into the repaired gate, blending into the noisy and chaotic crowd of the slaughterhouse. Their target was clear, to pass through the slaughterhouse and enter the relatively orderly Rust City, where they could find what they needed and those who could provide it. Ever since the last commotion caused by Feng Ling and the Red Devil, a high wall has been erected between the slaughterhouse and Rust City, made of thick steel plates poorly welded together. A few well-equipped guards with fierce expressions stand at the entrance, displaying the emblems of the Wolf Gang and the Red Devil. Clearly, after the end of the last battle, the Blood Alliance, the Evil Gang, and the Black Sail have all suffered significant losses. Rachel, having allied with Wanbei, has emerged as the biggest winner from this conflict. The Wolf Gang has always been backed by a certain platform, and now that it has collapsed, it is only reasonable for them to side with Rachel. Without hesitation, Bloodshark tossed over 2-star coins. The guard weighed them in his hand, finding them heavy, and grinned, revealing yellowed teeth, before waving them through. Upon entering Rust City, the environment changed dramatically. Although still dilapidated and chaotic, the pathways were much wider and more organized, lined with numerous shops and inns converted from containers and abandoned ship holds. Bloodshark was not unfamiliar with this place. He and Ghost Crocodile navigated through the maze like passages, turning down several hidden paths, eventually stopping in front of a shop made from a half-rusted shipping container. The shop was nondescript and had its door closed. Pushing it open revealed a cramped interior, lit only by a dim yellow electric light. A skinny old man with a monocle and a mechanical arm was hunched over a counter cluttered with disorganized parts, the harsh sound of grinding filling the air. In the corner, an old service robot was cleaning the oily floor. Hearing the door, the old man kept his back turned and said in a raspy voice, "We're not taking in goods today, come back another time." Blood Shark said nothing, merely drew his weapon, the sound of the chamber being loaded clearly audible. The grinding stopped abruptly. The old man slowly turned around, looking at the two figures cloaked in oversized coats, their shapes and faces obscured. He sneered, "A rat crossing the street, afraid to show your true selves. Do you know who I?" His words were cut off as a 16mm caliber weapon was pressed against his head. "What do you want?" The old man gave in, his tone becoming much more cautious. "A temporary jump beacon." Blood Shark lowered his voice, ensuring only the old man behind the counter could hear. "Coordinates in C-74 area. Y-09 sector. I want it in stock." The old man squinted his remaining good eye. "C-74? What do you need a large area beacon for? This kind of temporary beacon isn't cheap. The risks are too high. Do you have a large shipment to send?" The cold weapon nudged him again. Hey, good man. I know the rules." The old man quickly waved his hands. No questions, no questions. "But I don't have that beacon." "Old skinhead, I know you do." Blood Shark smirked. The old man was startled, his face paling. "Who are you? Who called you last time to brag in the tavern? Don't kill me. I'm still useful." The old man realized he was in trouble. "Damn it, familiar faces at work, you came for him. I can give you the stuff, but you have to pay. Otherwise, just kill me." "How much?" Blood Shark was not unreasonable. 8,000. "What? 8,000? You're quoting me that much for this piece of junk? You must be out of your mind. Honest pricing. Honest pricing. This is a large regional beacon. In Blackwater Bay, we can't release more than 50 a year. I'm selling it for 8,000, which I've risked my life for." The old man looked at the gun's muzzle, his tone weakened. "That's quite cheap. How about this? When our cargo ship arrives, I'll pay you." "Who has nothing to do with 8,000? 8,000 star coins, weighing 4 tons. The old man sighed in relief, knowing that his life was safe. At least the other party still respected the rules of Blackwater Bay. Moreover, yesterday a mysterious force robbed the Smile Broker Agency. And now there isn't that much cash flow for exchange in Blackwater Bay. People are anxious, and if there are still no star coins circulating in 10 days, the old man is prepared to grit his teeth and let go for 3 to 5,000. In Blackwater Bay, cash is the most important thing. You have to keep your word, the old man confirmed one last time. "If you keep talking, I'll take you out." Seeing this, the old man seemed to have made a decision. Finally, he gritted his teeth and grabbed the old server robot, slamming it onto the table. "Grandpa, don't kill me. Don't kill me." The robot was still shouting, and a trace of regret crossed the old man's eyes. This old companion had been with him for many years, helping him through countless lonely times. "Sorry." The old man gripped the knife handle, his hand steady. Despite the deep reluctance in his eyes, his strike was exceptionally precise and fierce. The robot's pleas were abruptly silenced. The sharp alloy dagger easily sliced through the worn synthetic skin on the old robot's chest, revealing the chaotic internal wires, miniature circuits, and a rudimentary processing unit. He showed no hesitation, probing inside and quickly extracting a hexagonal object from a concealed compartment. About the size of a thumb, it was completely matte black, neither metal nor stone, seemingly able to absorb all light, with a faint blue glow at its core that pulsed like breathing. This was exactly the temporary jump beacon that Blood Shark and the others wanted. As long as it was placed into the beacon amplifier, registered with Blackwater Bay, and then launched. The old man placed the beacon on the oil-stained counter and pushed it forward. Blood Shark grabbed the beacon, the cold touch instantly transmitted, and he tightly clenched it in his palm, signaling to Ghost Crocodile. Ghost Crocodile stepped forward, casting a large shadow over the old man once again. "Old man, do you think we don't know what we're dealing with?" The old man trembled in fear and quickly waved his hands. "Really? This is real. I've given you the item. We agreed. I'll pay when the goods arrive. I'll give you one last chance. If you don't comply, we have ways to get it, but your life will be gone." Blood Shark pressed the gun against the old man's jaw, his skin aged and dark, with yellowed teeth exuding a foul odor. The old man completely broke down, his face ashen. His last trump card and hope had been thoroughly exposed. He trembled and pointed to an inconspicuous emergency power interface board under the counter, which was covered in grease. "That, behind the third insulation tile. The code is..." He wept and stammered out a complex sequence of numbers and symbols. The Ghost Crocodile discarded the scrapped robot, crouched down, and easily pried open the well-camouflaged panel with his strong fingers. Following the password given by Old Skinhead, he unlocked a deeply shielded micro-vault behind it. Inside lay a genuine jump beacon. Its appearance was similar to the counterfeit, but the all-black surface was deeper and more restrained. as if even the surrounding space was slightly distorted. A layer of extremely subtle energy guiding matrix patterns flowed across its surface, visible only at specific angles. There was no longer any sparkle in Old Skinhead's eyes. How could a true treasure be hidden in the most dangerous place? Everything was just a facade for the two acquaintances of Bloodshark. Bloodshark placed the jump beacon on the table and commanded, "Activate it now." Activation can only be used within a day. If not used, it becomes void automatically. Old Skinhead was startled. These two came prepared. What if it wasn't just a delivery? The Navy? Impossible. A large area could only accommodate one big ship for a jump, and a single big ship could hardly stir any waves in Blackwater Bay. Watching the crowd approaching, Old Skinhead quickly began to operate. A visitor name was needed. Bloodshark looked at the ghost crocodile. What did the captain say back then? It needs to sound imposing. The ghost crocodile frowned, unable to recall. Was it PI or GT? No way. The captain said that PI was already overgrown with grass for years. Then why are you asking me? I got it. Bloodshark looked at Old Skinhead. Let us call it Terror Hunter. The name Terror Hunter exuded blatant malice. Damn it, if it's a delivery, then something off. Old Skinhead didn't dare to ask further and hurriedly complied. Alright, activated. The ghostly blue light on the beacon stabilized and illuminated. Bloodshark and the ghost crocodile grabbed the beacon and turned to leave. Wait, money. I need to be paid. 8,000, 5,000 is fine too. Old Skinhead surprisingly climbed onto the table. Bloodshark, who had reached the door, paused, turned back, and slowly removed his mask, grinning menacingly at Old Skinhead, whose expression was growing increasingly terrified. Want money? Did you see it clearly? Don't say I didn't give you a chance. With that, he and the ghost crocodile quickly disappeared into the shadows of the chaotic passage in Rust City. Left behind, Old Skinhead slumped behind the counter, pale and cold all over. Chapter 118. Family Feast. Meanwhile, at the Triumph Fortress, the rich fragrance of the Western Wings rose garden wafted in with the wind, and the lights on the main castle terrace shone brightly. The old butler bowed as he led the two through the oak doors. The interior scene was starkly different from the rustic exterior, exuding meticulously polished modern luxury. After about 3 minutes, having taken a floating lift, the old butler guided them to the main castle terrace. A maid obediently opened the door, revealing a broad and open view. A warm white stone dining table was set in the center, where a young woman in a dignified dark green dress was gracefully touching her personal terminal. Various video images sliding at her fingertips. This is my mother, Sally, she introduced softly. Count Clurin stood with his back to the entrance, gazing at the distant sea of city lights from the edge of the terrace. The deep gray formal wear accentuated the straightness of the back, while the silvery short hair gently danced in the wind. There are no mosquitoes in Carthage. Father, Parker's voice broke the silence. Lord Lu Ling has arrived. The Count slowly turned around, his face bearing a 7-part resemblance to Parker, but with sharper features. His golden yellow pupils held the depth that comes from years of experience. The terrace lights fell perfectly on his deep gray formal wear, the fabric subtly flowing with dark patterns, clearly made of an extremely precious high-end nano fabric. The gaze of this lord of the Jonbi Principality fell on Lu Ling's face. Almost simultaneously, Mrs. Sally also gracefully stood up, putting away her terminal, her face displaying a proper smile as her curious eyes scanned over. Mother, Parker slightly inclined. This is my friend, Lu Ling, from the distant Earth Federation. Welcome to Triumph Fortress, Lord Lu Ling. The Count stepped forward, extending his hand with a naturally dignified gesture. When Lu Ling shook hands with him, he could feel the warmth and strength emanating from the other's palm, a unique steadiness characteristic of someone who has held power for a long time. I came in a hurry and didn't bring a gift, Lu Ling responded calmly. Haha, the Count laughed heartily. Your presence is the best gift for the Jonbi family. Parker mentions you every day. At that moment, Mrs. Sally had already approached, her dark blue gown fluttering in the evening breeze. Jonbi Jinlon Sally, when she extended her hand. The exquisite jewelry on her wrist shimmered with a pleasing glow. Lu Ling gently shook hands with her, feeling a slight chill. At the Count's gesture, the group took their seats. The servers began to lay out the dishes, the tableware made of transparent blue stone crystal, which Lu Ling had seen before in Blackwater Bay. However, in comparison, its color and purity were far superior to the goods circulated in Blackwater Bay. Gala was right. The true noble's items are rarely found in the hands of the lower class. I hear you really enjoy the scenery of Halifa Lake? The Count, as he sat down, had the server immediately unfold his napkin, his tone casual, as if in idle conversation. Yet, his golden eyes were carefully assessing. Like Parker, this scrutiny was always just right, never uncomfortable. Halifa Lake is beautiful. That landscape was designed by me personally. I favor Celine. Dining under the moonlight by the lake always has a unique charm. I hope you enjoy it. With the Count's capabilities, he could easily be described as someone who calls the wind and summons the rain. The climate and seasons of Carthage are entirely regulated by meteorological devices. If one wished to see the moon every day, one could certainly do so. The servers presented the dishes, the bluestone crystal tableware reflecting a much deeper azure sheen under the lights. Each dish resembled a work of art. But the Count's attention seemed not to be on that. Try this, the signature silverlight snowfish of Carthage, which can only be nurtured in extremely cold seas. The meat is tender, made by Parker's mother, the Count suggested for tasting. Lu Ling displayed a surprised expression and began to taste as instructed. He understood the purpose of this family banquet. It was merely to test his background. A gentleman is open and magnanimous, while a petty person remains anxious. Perhaps the young Parker would deeply resonate with this, but the Count, being an old fox who has lived for hundreds of years, has seen it all. When strength is present, sincerity naturally follows. Parker asked, "You come from the Earth Federation?" The Count elegantly sliced the tender pan-fried snow fish on his plate, casually mentioning, "That legendary origin place, for us who live on the fringes of the Star Sea, is always shrouded in mystery." Lu Ling slightly nodded and tasted the soup, which was indeed exquisite. He responded, "The Earth Federation is merely a distant title. After tens of thousands of years, the forms of human civilization have diversified." "Indeed." The Count nodded. "Then, in your view, is the current pure path taken by the Empire correct?" The word pure seemed to momentarily freeze the air on the terrace. Even Lady Sally, who had been quietly dining, slowed her movements, and Parker instinctively perked up his ears. Lu Ling pondered. After 60,000 years of human development, apart from the pioneers of the expedition to the ferry, the local humans in the galaxy gradually derived two evolutionary paths, the pure and the harmonious. The pure path insists on the genetic purity of humanity, viewing biotechnology as an auxiliary for evolution, extending the wings of potential. Especially after the Dark Era triggered by the intelligent machinery, the subsequent Dawn Era saw fear and reflection lead most human governments, including the Parthian Empire, to lean towards this human-centric path. On the other hand, the harmonious path is about truly coexisting with machinery, interconnecting all things, and breaking through carbon-based limitations, which is precisely the origin of intelligent machinery civilization. For this reason, within the current territory of the Empire, the concept of harmony and its related technologies are strictly guarded against and targeted for crackdown. Thus, while mechanical prosthetics are quite common, pure robots are exceedingly rare. In fact, since Lu Ling arrived in Carthage, he had not seen anyone with mechanical prosthetics or similar body modifications, let alone robots. Carthage and cosmic pirates represent two extremes. One is heaven, the other is hell. The Count's question seemed like an inquiry, but was actually a highly perceptive test aimed directly at the core of ideology. He was asking Lu Ling about his views on the Empire's national policy, while also probing where Lu Ling himself, and the Earth Federation he represented, stood. This posed a dilemma for Lu Ling. The information about the Earth Federation was conveyed to him by Greenleaf at the time. He had to use that perfect guise to survive. As for its true existence and form, he had no knowledge. However, the Earth Federation was exceedingly distant. At least with the current capabilities of the Empire or the Zhuangbai family, they were not equipped for immediate communication. This did leave some room for maneuvering. Thus, Lu Ling did not respond immediately. He lifted the crystal glass and took a small sip of the amber like fine wine, letting the rich flavor linger on his tongue for a moment. His gaze swept over the edge of the terrace, casting toward the distant lights of Carthage City, which sparkled like a galaxy, a prosperous scene under the rule of the pure path. It was not much different from ancient Earth, perhaps even more beautiful. He then withdrew his gaze and calmly met the Earl's probing eyes. There is no right or wrong in the path itself. Purity is the cornerstone of the stable continuation of human civilization, allowing one to be called human. Harmony, on the other hand, contains the possibility of breaking limits and exploring another form of life. The key lies in whether the subject who wields power possesses wisdom and character that match it. Lu Ling neither denied purity nor harmony. After all, the Empire prohibits advanced artificial intelligence, yet there is aura on his ship. If the Empire were to discover the existence of this high-level artificial intelligence, it would likely spark an anti-intellectual machine movement. The tragic history of the Dark Ages must always be remembered by humanity. A hint of peculiarity and contemplation flashed through the Earl's golden pupils, and then he looked deeply at Lu Ling, nodding slowly. The wisdom of wielding power is well said. Lu Ling smiled slightly. He was becoming increasingly adept at controlling his expressions. At that moment, Lady Sally timely smiled, suggesting that such a profound topic should be accompanied by the Kralacy ice crystal melon, which is only delicious for a fleeting few minutes. The servers immediately understood and brought out exquisite desserts. The ice crystal melon was cut into perfect thin slices, served in a crystal cup shrouded in icy mist, emitting a refreshing fruity aroma that instantly dispelled the previous tension. The atmosphere seemed to ease again, and Parker secretly breathed a sigh of relief. As he sensed his father's probing, the Earl enjoyed a small slice of melon, letting the sweet and refreshing taste dissolve in his mouth before putting down the bluestone spoon, his gaze returning to Lu Ling, his tone now more gentle and casual. Akin to that of an elder. Your Excellency Lu Ling, your insights are remarkable, and your demeanor is indeed rare. He first affirmed, then naturally redirected the conversation. Speaking of which, it is truly a stroke of luck for Parker to have a friend like you. And it is an honor for our Zhuangbai family. He paused slightly, as if casually continuing the conversation, with just the right amount of curiosity and concern in his eyes. Young talents like yourself. I wonder if you have any engagement or someone you admire back in your distant homeland. The customs of the Earth Federation must differ greatly from our remote land, right? This question was more nuanced and deeper than the previous ones. Parker's spoon paused slightly. Lady Sally maintained her smile, elegantly tasting the dessert as if this was just the most ordinary greeting at the banquet. Lu Ling had actually anticipated this. For nobles like the Zhuangbai family, marriage alliances are always one of the most solid bonds. At least, that is what Count Kerwin believes. He does not trust friends, but he would not hinder Parker from making friends. Their status grants them many things they cannot possess, and friendship is one of them. Seeing Lu Ling ponder, Count Kerwin continued with a smile. I have over 2,000 daughters, many of whom are both talented and beautiful. There are still 436 eligible unmarried ones under 300 years of age. If you are interested, I can personally arrange it. I believe you will find a suitable partner. What on earth? 300 years? Eligible, unmarried, and 436 of them? A woman 3 years older holds a gold brick. A woman of 30 years older, offering a kingdom. This is the future, and it's not impossible. A woman of 300, that's not feasible. Lu Ling truly cannot accept it. According to the imperial age standard, he is merely a minor. Your Excellency, I bear a special mission, Lu Ling said, giving Parker a glance, which Parker immediately understood, redirecting the conversation back on track. Father. Lu Ling is indeed aspiring to the stars and the sea, which is beyond the reach of ordinary people. However, he has come here with a request that requires your promise. Oh, Count Clurin's gaze shifted between the two, the last trace of scrutiny in his eyes transforming into a gentle smile. Your Excellency, Lu Ling seems quite interested in our family's Gravity Mirage well. I think perhaps we can take him for a visit? Parker cautiously proposed. Gravity Mirage well? Count Clurin pondered, lifting his wine glass. His tone sounding casual. Your Excellency comes from the Earth Federation, well-traveled and knowledgeable. Are you genuinely interested in such crude facilities in these fringe star domains? I am merely a calibration engineer for a large-class battleship in the Earth Federation. Starships and engines are my expertise, Lu Ling replied calmly. Moreover, the Earth Federation does not possess such noble private properties. This reasoning was impeccable. Count Clurin found no fault in it. But the coordinates of the Gravity Mirage well were a family secret, vital to their lineage, known only to the heads of the family and the first heir. A deep light flickered in his golden eyes. First, he looked at Parker, then at Lu Ling, lightly tapping his fingers on the table twice, as if weighing his options. Finally, he slowly nodded, his tone returning to that of a composed and grand ruler. Parker, you will personally accompany His Excellency Lu Ling for the visit. Ensure he has a great time and guarantee absolute safety. Yes, father. The Count raised his glass again. This time his smile appeared much more sincere. May this journey yield fruitful results, and may our friendship endure. Lu Ling raised his glass in salute. To enduring friendship. Chapter 119. The refugees. The hovercar landed on the helipad atop the lakeside fortress, the deep blue anti-gravity halo gradually extinguishing. The cabin door opened upward, and Lu Ling stepped down under the cool moonlight of Carthage, the chilly night breeze brushing against his face, bringing the moist air from nearby Halifa Lake. Count Clurin was a shrewd ruler. During their conversation, he often spoke in indirect ways, never crossing certain boundaries. Visiting the Gravity Mirage well was both a gesture of goodwill and a deeper entanglement. Master, welcome home. A melodious and obedient voice came from the side. Cinderlyn stood quietly, her slightly damp golden hair gently swaying in the night wind. Lu Ling was taken aback. She held her hands up, palms cradling an ancient-looking ring that subtly shimmered with a faint energy glow. This is the highest authority ring of the lakeside fortress. All personnel and facilities belonging to the fortress are your assets, awaiting your command. He recalled that Parker had gifted him this estate on the hovercar. 88 rigorously trained maids skilled in various service techniques. 45 well-equipped professional security personnel. And his gaze fell on Cinderlyn's face. The perfect artificial human rated highest by the Internal Affairs Office of Zhuangban. I won't stay here for long. He looked at Cinderlyn. The artificial beings are just advanced biological humans, not devoid of their own thoughts and consciousness. On the contrary, they are very intelligent. having undergone precise genetic selection and cultivation from the original embryos, with strong learning abilities. Cinderin slightly bowed. Your will is the meaning of our existence. Wherever the master goes, we shall be there. Lu Ling scratched his head, understanding the implication clearly. Well, from now on, call me Captain. Yes, Captain. Not bad. I like this title. Lu Ling felt great. The team had grown stronger, and he knew this was a gesture of goodwill from Parker. As for loyalty, he wasn't too worried. With Aura around, no information could escape its monitoring. As for the related privacy issues, Aura should be too busy for that. Upon entering the castle, Shervina greeted them. The Blood Shark has completed the first phase of the mission, and Lien and the others have set off. The speed is acceptable. Just enough time for a meal. Lu Ling nodded in approval. Recalling his experiences battling alongside the Blood Shark at Blackwater Bay, this guy, although rough, was indeed reliable in getting things done. Without lingering too long, Lu Ling took Shervina to the dungeon again. The hunting dog sensed his presence, waking from a false slumber. Its thick tail sweeping the cold ground, making a slight rubbing sound. Lu Ling stood at the center of the dungeon, took a deep breath, and prepared to summon refugees and laborers. The price for a refugee was 3,000 star coins. Purchase. Payment successful. This item has been stored in the warehouse. Withdraw. Please select a withdrawal location. Current location. Confirm withdrawal. Neural synchronization protocol loading. Loyalty mark injection completed. An unremarkable man suddenly appeared. He wore faded old work clothes, his face weathered, and his eyes carried a weariness and vigilance born from long struggles for survival. But deep within, there was a flicker of an undying flame. For Mimitarl. For freedom. The hunting dog let out a low warning growl, which Lu Ling silenced with a glare. Then, the information about this refugee appeared before him. Information name. Kasserine age. 31 status. Vital signs stable skills. Maintenance of small mineral processing equipment. Mechanical repair affiliation. Citizen of the Mimitarl Republic. Border colony planet and ordinary technician. This refugee looked average. Far less impressive than when the Dark Crow appeared, and with few skills. Which meant Lu Ling would need to spend money on skill books for training. However, the price was right. Lu Ling bought 1,000 at once. The next moment, the entire space fell silent. Then, the vast warehouse was instantly filled with thousands of figures. Men and women, young and old, dressed differently, their faces showing confusion, fear, or instinctive vigilance. Our pride, our freedom, our heritage. A Mimitarl person, finding the way home. This is someone from the core agency of Mimitarl. For Sabisto, rise. Yes, we shall rise. Anger will turn into cannon fire. We will crush the imperialists into dust. Brother, this is not something to be discussed lightly. What if someone from an opposing faction appears next to you? Serving is an honor. The pride of my homeland is undeniable. Finally, someone from my faction has appeared. Let them witness the glory of our journey. This is a representative from another faction. We possess an indomitable spirit, the power of unwavering determination. With our own hands, we create our destiny. This is a person from my homeland. Long live the Empress. Glory shines upon our new Eden. This shout suddenly silenced the entire scene. It was quite eerie. Everyone's gaze turned towards that person, who stood tall with an unmistakable devotion on their face. Lu Ling was momentarily taken aback, then helplessly rubbed his forehead. The randomness of this system summoning is truly remarkable. Freedom fighters, bankrupt merchants, fallen politicians, and devoted followers from various factions, all gathered here together. The loyalty imprint ensures they do not betray us, but it clearly cannot immediately erase their deep-rooted faction identities and historical conflicts. These individuals have become refugees for various reasons, and now, they have been summoned together. Everyone, silence. Just as the tense atmosphere was about to escalate, Lu Ling stepped forward, calmly scanning the crowd, his voice gradually amplifying. Slogans and past glories can remain in your hearts. But here, under my command, he deliberately paused to ensure everyone's attention was focused on him. You all share one common identity, my crew. You have only one entity to be loyal to, me, your captain. Lu Ling's words were firm and direct, yet they did not provoke any resistance. The loyalty imprint worked quietly within their deeper consciousness, making what could have sounded like a domineering statement feel more like a natural directive. The inner disputes and defenses of these individuals from different factions gradually calmed under the influence of the imprint. Lu Ling observed their reactions, understanding that the imprint's coercive power alone was insufficient. He needed to provide hope and clear rules. They are not robots. They are living, breathing people. The mysteries of the system are beyond his current comprehension. However, since these individuals have been summoned by him and are loyal to him, he must take responsibility for them. Lu Ling continued, I will not ask you to forget the past, but I ask you to start looking towards the future. Here, you will receive equal status, safety, food, shelter, and the opportunity to earn respect and a new life through your abilities and contributions. Individuals from one faction. You can prove your worth with your resilience and hard work. Individuals from another faction. You can create wealth with your wisdom and courage. Individuals from yet another faction. You can fulfill your duties with your discipline and loyalty. Followers. You may continue to uphold your beliefs, as long as they do not harm the collective interest. But I have only one demand of you all. Unity. Unity. And more unity. Address me as Captain, understood? It was unclear who first took the lead. A chorus of responses followed. Yes, Captain. Understood. Captain. The initial responses were varied, but quickly became unified and loud. What about the Queen? The follower of the Empire seemed confused. You fool. Why not just have the Captain take down your Queen? Silence. Lu Ling gestured to stop, tilting her head. Shi Weina stepped forward, always ready to faithfully execute any command from Lu Ling. Together with Aura, they began to preliminarily group and register everyone according to their original skill potential, assigning them to internship positions in various basic departments of the Death Spiral class. Understood. Shi Weina nodded, then turned to the crowd, her voice cold and clear. Everyone, stand in line according to your original nationality. Lu Ling observed this scene and sent a communication to Greenleaf, instructing her to prepare sufficient food and clean trainee uniforms, while also conducting a comprehensive health check on everyone. The refugees, under Shi Weina's guidance, departed, with the transport vehicles already arranged. From then on, they would be integrated into the Death Spiral, becoming part of the operation of this massive ship. The loyalty chip ensured their eternal loyalty. But it didn't mean they didn't need to survive. Unlike the Dark Ravens, they possessed basic human emotions and desires. They needed food, water, rest, wages, and hope. Supporting, settling, and training these thousands of people would be a significant expense and a complex management task. There were still too few people. However, at this stage, it was a very important beginning. Lu Ling's gaze turned to the system interface, where more passengers awaited her exploration. Chapter 120. Labor. The labor industry has always been a controversial sector. It is highly popular in the Emma Empire, while the Galeni Federation detests it intensely. Labor unit price, 2,500,000 star coins. Purchase, payment successful. This item has been stored in the hangar. Withdraw. Please select a withdrawal location. Current location, confirm withdrawal, neural synchronization protocol loading. Loyalty brand injection complete. The cold light of the dungeon evenly spilled down, and a figure solidified amidst the void's fluctuations. Lu Ling squinted. It was a woman. She stood in the center of the dungeon, wearing the gray standard uniform characteristic of laborers, adorned with the MS status insignia. Standing close to 1.8 meters tall, her figure still revealed the unique resilience sculpted by years of strict military training, even under the uniform. Approximately 35 or 36 years old, her face was not particularly beautiful, bearing the sternness forged by the winds and fires of the starry sea. Her complexion was pale, a result of long-term confinement within the starship lacking natural light. Most striking were her eyes, with pupils of a grayish hue. When she scanned the area, the hunting hound beside Lu Ling immediately tensed up. She was a Minmater. Her gaze lingered on Lu Ling for a moment. Then she straightened her back and executed a crisp military salute. Her voice clear and powerful. Marshal, Brigadier General Brutus of the Republic Fleet, reporting to you. Brutus? ISNT, that one of the 4 core tribes of the Republic? Are you from the Brutus tribe? Yes. Her response was crisp and decisive, her gaze unwavering. Despite wearing a labor uniform, she still exuded the dignified aura of a professional military officer. Lu Ling was taken aback, yet somewhat pleased. What a surprise. Who would have thought that a laborer could turn out to be a professional commander from the Republic Fleet? He realized that these so-called passengers, laborers, or refugees were essentially a talent pool. He had struck gold. He quickly accessed more detailed information. Information: name, Brutzerai, age, 36, status, mildly malnourished. Stable vital signs: position, commander of the 7th Fleet of the Mimitar Republic. Skills, total, 56. Information: Warfare Command V, Fleet Leadership Theory V, Guerrilla Command V, Guerrilla Warfare Command Specialized Research V, Pulse Command Specialized Research V, Regiment Command Theory V, Fleet Coordination Theory V, Fleet Formation Theory V, Fleet Command Theory V, Pulse Command Specialized Research V, Shield Command Specialized Research V, Armor Command Specialized Research V, Marksmanship V, Precision Shooting Theory V, Trajectory Budgeting V, Ballistics Analysis V, Surgical Strike Theory V, Controlled Point Strike Theory V, V Expert Level, Affiliation, Brute Clan of the Mimitar Republic. Lu Ling held his breath. This was no ordinary laborer. He had pulled an SSR. Just 2.5 million. Double that, and I want it. Suppressing his excitement, Lu Ling asked as calmly as possible, Major Brutzerai, why are you among the Imperial laborers? Brutzerai's gaze dimmed slightly, but her voice remained calm. defeated and captured. Just 4 small words. Yet they clearly hinted at a brutal battle history. Understood. Welcome to my fleet. Lu Ling nodded earnestly. Major Bretsarai, here you may need to adapt to a new environment temporarily, but I believe your professional skills will soon find a stage to shine. Bretsarai saluted again, her grayish eyes reigniting with determination, obeying the marshal's orders. Following the marshal's command, the Mimitar people never fear any challenge. For freedom, we are always ready to return to the stars. Damn it. Lu Ling's greatest fear was encountering such zealots. He absolutely could not let Bretsarai meet the Dark Crow. One was a fervent killing machine, and the other was a captured leader fighting for the Republic's ideals. The thought of them exchanging ideas was too terrifying to consider. Without hesitation, Lu Ling made a decision. Fortunately, the Eve ships were diverse, and expanding the fleet was inevitable. The Amar would go on the Imperial ships, while the Mimitar would be on the Republic ships. The universe is vast, a little separation wouldn't hurt. After meeting with Bretsarai, a clear plan formed in his mind. He would make money in the circles of Imperial nobility while sending Bretsarai out to engage in battles. After all, it's her expertise. Lu Ling opened the communication. Shervina, come to the dungeon. We have a new member, priority level highest. She will complete a comprehensive physical and mental health check, and then go to the bridge to familiarize herself. No, I need her to professionally assess the current state of the vessel and identify all areas for improvement and optimization. Understood. Savina's response was as concise and efficient as ever. After Sarai bid farewell to Lu Ling, she followed Savina out. Subsequently, Lu Ling spent 25 million on a 10-time draw. Unfortunately, no elite like Sarai appeared. Instead, there were only individuals with strong physiques, but not suitable for command, so Lu Ling assigned them to the assault team for training. Soon after, the Marine Corps also conducted a 10-time draw, costing 2 million. These Marines were all formidable, skilled, and professional, but compared to the zealots of the Shadow Raven, there was evidently a gap. It seems that in terms of potential, Shadow Raven is still an SR. Moreover, that guy from Shadow Raven is not just ruthless. He is completely devoid of emotions, a pure killing machine. Lu Ling returned to the castle study. After a series of summons and dealing with various talents, he felt somewhat fatigued. The night was deep, and through the large floor-to-ceiling windows, the starry night sky of Carthage was visible, brilliant, and tranquil. Cindeline. The heavy study door opened. Cindeline walked in slowly, clearly having just finished bathing, now dressed in a brand-new head-made uniform. The pearl gray tone accentuated her flawless skin, making it appear even more translucent, glowing softly in the gentle light. Her damp golden hair was no longer tied up as during the day. A few strands lay gracefully against her smooth forehead and neck, with tips still adorned with droplets of water, reflecting tiny sparkling points in the slanting sunset. She moved with light elegance, and a faint fragrance filled the air. She stopped a few steps away from Lu Ling, slightly lowering her head, impeccably professional. Captain. Her voice remained soft and pleasant, and her signature gray-white eyes lifted to look at Lu Ling, waiting for instructions. Tomorrow, find some professional engineering teams to expand the dungeon and transform it into a laboratory. Lu Ling didn't look up. He urgently needed a large amount of star coins to support greater future expenditures. The prices in Eve are high, and a stable source of income must be established quickly. Yes. Cindeline lowered her head. Lu Ling listened to her voice and looked at her smooth, fair neck, his eyes slowly scanning over. It must be said that as an artificial person, Cindeline is indeed a pinnacle biological masterpiece of Zhuanbei. How much money is left in the castle account? 1 billion credit points. Although Lu Ling had known this for a long time, he was still somewhat surprised at this moment. Parker truly intended to tie him to Zhuanbei's war chariot. Good, here's a list of supplies. Purchase everything by 8 a.m. tomorrow and deliver it to the Navy Dock number 1 for storage. Yes. Meanwhile, on the bridge of the vessel, the hatch opened. Savina entered with Sarai. Currently on duty were Gira and Denise, who were sitting at the control console, diligently studying the complex battleship operation manual. As Sai Rue walked in, her steps paused momentarily. Her grayish-blue eyes quickly scanned the entire layout of the bridge, the equipment models, the status of the indicator lights, and the 2 individuals learning at the side. A subtle frown formed on her forehead. This was a standard ship for clones. Shui Na waved her hand. Aola swiftly flew over, clearly having already received the highest orders from Lu Ling. Permission grant confirmation, Brute Sai Rue. Permission level, level 2. Identity level, Senior Corps crew member. Position, First Officer. Authorization completed. The First Officer has different responsibilities from the Captain's Officer. The Captain's Officer is a direct extension and backup of the Captain, usually held by a trusted confidant. The First Officer, however, is directly responsible for the daily operations of the bridge and navigational safety. When the Captain is absent, they are the first in line to command according to the operational regulations. Of course, Shi Wei Na holds the only level 1 authority, granting her the highest power to bypass all conventional command sequences and take direct control when necessary. This means that as long as she intervenes, her command authority supersedes that of the first officer. But if she does not intervene, the first officer takes over in the captain's absence. Shi Wei Na directly led Sai Rui to the captain's seat located in the center of the bridge, symbolizing the highest command authority. Sai Rui did not hesitate. She walked steadily forward and sat down in the spacious, well-fitted chair. The moment she sat down, her entire aura suddenly transformed, replaced by an absolute focus and calm control. Sai Rui reached out, expertly conducting various operational checks without needing AOLA's assistance. Each data review was precise and efficient, reflecting a professional muscle memory honed through countless experiences. She inherently belonged here, in this starry sky, in this position. At this moment, Shi Wei Na truly understood the meaning of Lu Ling's words about professionalism. It turned out the captain was right. This woman had once been the commander of an invincible fleet. Usually, when Lu Ling was absent, she managed things, relying more on AOLA's assistance. She thought she had mastered the basic operations. But now it seemed she was still at a kindergarten level compared to someone as professional as Sai Rui. Shi Wei Na was genuinely impressed, yet deep down, she was unwilling to concede. She believed that one day, she would become an irreplaceable right-hand person to Lu Ling, that everything would be completely irreplaceable. In the captain's seat, Sai Rui's gaze quickly swept over a series of core parameters: energy grids, reactor output, capacitor recharge, jump core speed, main weapons, and shields. Her frown deepened. Finally, she leaned back slightly and let out a long, helpless sigh. So, they had designed the performance threshold of the elite clone ship to such a low level. No wonder one hit was enough. Chapter 121, Ambush Blackwater Bay, Neon Harbor. A heavy cargo hovercraft drove out of the checkpoint, merging into the traffic. Bloodshark and Ghost Crocodile sat in the cockpit. Damn it, the smiling ghost disappeared overnight. And now they didn't even know who to buy information from. Bloodshark cursed. Ghost Crocodile focused on driving, keeping an eye on the surroundings while listening to Bloodshark's complaints. In the container behind, there is a device capable of amplifying the jump signal. According to the plan, reinforcements should be on their way, right? The Ghost Crocodile finally spoke, as long as it's not that monster. Bloodshark fell silent. He knew that the Ghost Crocodile was referring to the Dark Crow. That guy has no emotions, is inhuman. Why do you think the captain had him train us? Our genes aren't as strong as his, and we aren't even as good as Sister Lien. I don't know. The Ghost Crocodile shook his head. Maybe to establish authority or eliminate internal traitors. The batch of people captured at the collection station? The Ghost Crocodile slowly nodded. All of our people are accounted for. It wouldn't be hard to avoid that interception line in the dark. Do you think those 6 were killed by the interception line? Are you saying? Bloodshark sat up. They were taken out by the Dark Crow. The Ghost Crocodile was certain. A few of them were captured by me personally. Their skills are decent. But they must have surrendered to avoid death when they encountered the Dark Crow. If that's the case, it makes some sense. Maybe the captain extracted some intelligence from them? Bloodshark also felt puzzled, then shrugged indifferently. Who cares? Let the captain worry about these things. We just need to do our own part, and have a clear conscience. The Ghost Crocodile agreed. Ha ha ha. Sister Lien is the one who suffers. Her rank is even lower than mine now. I'm about to become a level 11 official crew member. At this point, the Ghost Crocodile became a bit curious. What did she do to Beth? Even Aura got involved. Shoo, the captain said it's strictly forbidden to mention Aura, so let's keep our voices down. Bloodshark made a shushing gesture and lowered his voice. She initially intended to punish Sister Lien according to the rules, but later the captain personally exempted her from punishment. Do you think those people were killed by the Dark Crow because they leaked its existence? It doesn't seem likely. No one can hide anything from Aura, after all. The Ghost Crocodile's voice suddenly cut off because Bloodshark covered his mouth. After a while, Bloodshark's voice quietly resumed. Do you think Aura can hear us talking? It's broad daylight. Don't scare me like that. What if the vehicle crashes and we're done for? The compartment suddenly fell eerily silent. The two exchanged silent glances, communicating wordlessly. Do you think Aura can still find out? Impossible. What if? The captain isn't unreasonable. Look at that fat guy and thin guy, damn. They even got extra rations. Bloodshark rolled his eyes. If I say something to you and you say something to me, it's not considered leaking information. The Ghost Crocodile's expression was serious. Who knows? What if you're the traitor? You've got to be kidding me. The Ghost Crocodile was momentarily speechless. He fell silent, his sharp gaze sweeping over an apparently ordinary intersection. Just 3 seconds after their flying vehicle passed the intersection, 2 black flying cars without any gang markings quietly merged into the traffic, trailing far behind. Someone. Bloodshark immediately sat up straight, his expression turning grim. Old skinhead. Really looking for death. Why don't you just kill him directly? Why show your face? That was a fake face. Bloodshark immediately retorted. Besides, how to kill? If I do, trouble will come knocking right away, and then we won't even be able to buy a beacon. That time is sufficient, though, the ghost crocodile said lightly. Bloodshark was taken aback, unable to refute. Knowing he was in the wrong, he directly shifted the blame onto Lu Ling. The captain said this matter needs to be kept low-key. Killing someone would be too high profile. The ghost crocodile did not respond, accelerating instead. Reinforcements were probably already on their way. Bloodshark glanced at his wristband, then at the unusual situation behind them, and said word by word, I actually hope that guy comes over now. Just as their heavy cargo hover vehicle was about to enter the last tunnel exit, a sudden change occurred. The two hover vehicles behind them suddenly erupted with a deafening roar of engines, speeding towards them, their hatches sliding open to reveal dark gun barrels, instantly spewing out tongues of flame. The dense rain of bullets hammered against the massive body of the cargo vehicle like a deluge, high explosive warheads detonating against the thick armor, creating bursts of fire and a deafening roar. Damn it, they really dared to act. Bloodshark cursed, immediately opening the weapon control panel. Their vehicle was also a heavily armored cargo type rented at a high price. The armor plates on the top and sides of the cargo hover vehicle quickly slid open, revealing hidden rotating gun turrets and two small missile launchers underneath. The gun barrels adjusted instantly, spitting out retaliatory fire, launching missiles towards the two hover vehicles. The tunnel walls on both sides suddenly exploded, as a heavy engineering vehicle equipped with a massive impact drill violently broke through the wall, followed by dozens of armed small hovercraft rushing out, quickly surrounding them. The ghost crocodile and Bloodshark were startled and spoke in unison. The Blackwater Bay Management Committee. The left side is yours. Ghost Crocodile's voice was serious. His muscular arms tensed as he gripped the violently shaking control stick, flooring the accelerator while sharply steering. The massive cargo hover vehicle emitted a roar, executing a heavy drift and crashing into a hovercraft trying to approach from the side. Boom! A violent explosion of fire erupted. But the enemy's attack was far from over. More hovercraft closed in from all directions. They were extremely agile, using obstacles in the tunnel and the vehicle's blind spots to get closer and open fire. The cargo vehicle's armor twisted and peeled away. A premeditated hunt was quietly unfolding in the bustling neon-lit underground passage of the port. In the high sky, 3,000 meters away from Bloodshark and the Ghost Crocodile, the large assault vessel Enforcer of the Blackwater Bay floated. Alongside it was Enforcer 2. Inside the command room, personnel reported calmly. The first assault team had already locked onto the target. The second assault team was in the process of encirclement. In front of the command room, standing in front of a massive observation window that occupied the entire wall, Vice President Ding Lut stood with his hands behind his back. He wore the high-ranking uniform of the Blackwater Bay Management Committee, his gaze fixed on the bursts of fire below, his eye sockets sunken. Half a step behind him, a young secretary's gaze flickered several times over Ding Lut's back. Finally, unable to resist, the secretary took a small step forward. Vice President, is this action too aggressive? After all, if news spreads on our territory, it would be a devastating blow to the committee's reputation. Reputation? Ding Lut scoffed. Reputation is a luxury built on survival, and the dead have no voice. He tilted his head slightly, looking at the young secretary officer, and said slowly, Your father sent you here to learn how to deal with these emergencies, not to adhere to any rules or principles. This is a critical time, and we cannot afford any carelessness. Have you forgotten how the smiling devil vanished overnight? At this point, Ding Lut exhaled, his tone somewhat chilling. My money is gone, and their lives are gone. The secretary officer's throat tightened. Are you referring to the rumored ghost battleship? I believe it might be connected to those behind the Blood Alliance. Previously, there were reports that the Blood Alliance had transported a battleship to the battlefield at Rachel's solitary grave base, but it was preemptively intercepted by the naval forces, resulting in that battleship being sunk. Now another one has appeared, and its style of operation is very similar to theirs. They are hiding too deeply. Blood Alliance? Ding Lut did not elaborate. Perhaps he lacked sufficient intelligence to make a judgment. None of that mattered. This was a critical time, and extraordinary measures were required. One misstep could lead to irreversible consequences. Just then, the hatch opened, and two guards dragged in an old man, throwing him to the ground. The old man had a gag in his mouth to prevent him from biting his tongue, trembling all over, his eyes filled with fear. To him, this was a person of great significance. He never expected to see such a figure just for a report. Ding Lut slightly raised his chin in a gesture. One of the guards understood and roughly tore off the tape from the old man's mouth, causing him to emit a short, pained whimper. Ding Lut stepped forward, looking down at the old man. Tell me, after they got the beacon, was there anything unusual? Who did they come into contact with? I really don't know. They've been at Blackwater Bay for the past 8 hours. The old man stammered under Ding Lut's intense gaze. What is the name they registered under? The old man, trembling, managed to squeeze out a few words. Terror Hunter. Terror Hunter? Ding Lut repeated, a cold, contemptuous smile curling at the corner of his mouth. He turned to the secretary officer with a mocking tone. Heh, did you hear that? Terror Hunter, such a blood-soaked name. Does it sound like something serious? He turned back, gazing again at the increasingly faint resistance fire outside the window. His tone grim. They are merely a group of desperate individuals who have struck it rich in some corner and dare to stir trouble in Blackwater Bay. In this period, eliminating them would not damage our committee's reputation. Even your father wouldn't say anything about it. If the beacon falls into the hands of the ghost ship, then Blackwater Bay will truly face its doom. His command set the final judgment for the encirclement below. The young secretary officer stood in cold contemplation, his back turned. In the command room, only the rhythmic ticking of instruments remained, like a countdown to death. Chapter 122, The Lost Shadow High-Speed Transport Tunnel. Crash through. Bloodshark shouted. Not now. Ghost Crocodile looked at the exit completely blocked by engineering vehicles and hovercrafts ahead, as well as the armed vehicles relentlessly pursuing from behind, his expression grim. We are completely surrounded. At that moment, the cargo bay door behind the engineering vehicle opened, revealing a row of intricately designed black robots. This made Bloodshark and Ghost Crocodile's hair stand on end. Damn it, it's the cleanser. The red lights in the eyes of dozens of robots flickered to life as they leaped out of the cargo hold. Cleaning protocol activated. Executing extermination program. The cold, synthesized electronic voice echoed through the tunnel, and the red lights in the eyes of the robots suddenly blazed to their fullest intensity as they jumped out of the engineering vehicle's cargo hold, their inertia causing their knees to sink into the ground before they swiftly pounced with precision. Bloodshark reacted quickly, pulling out a non-standard high-power EMP grenade from beneath his seat and detonating it by leaning out of the window. A hum filled the air as the electromagnetic pulse swept out in an instant. The first few robots that lunged forward froze momentarily, sparks flying from their joints as they stumbled to the ground. However, the subsequent robots only hesitated for a fraction of a second before leaping onto the rooftop of the vehicle. Hearing the vibrations from the armor, Bloodshark frantically opened fire with the turret on the roof. Hold on tight, Ghost Crocodile shouted, taking advantage of the momentary chaos caused by the EMP on the engineering vehicle and hovercraft ahead, flooring the accelerator. Boom. He maneuvered the massive cargo flyer through a narrow gap. A piercing metallic scraping sound echoed from the roof as several robots clinging to it were scraped off by the engineering vehicle's cover. The cockpit deformed at a visible speed, alarms blaring continuously, and Ghost Crocodile couldn't help but curse. From now on, I'll handle this. I can't believe you're so careless. If you had done it cleanly, we wouldn't be in this mess. Bloodshark silently replaced the energy magazine of the turret, not rebutting. Their target was the cargo containers behind them. The exit was just ahead. Ghost Crocodile tried to maneuver the cargo flyer to shake off the damn things crawling all over it, but enemies surrounded them on all sides, compressing their movement space to the extreme. Any significant movement could lead to losing control and crashing into the tunnel walls. No way. Can't shake them off. This isn't a solution. As another enemy engineering flyer and several armed hovercraft charged out ahead, Bloodshark focused intently. Suddenly, he hit upon a key idea. Yes, Ola. An absurd yet potentially life-saving thought exploded in his mind. Ha ha ha. Ghost Crocodile, we're not going to die? Bloodshark laughed maniacally, then immediately opened communications, connecting to the public service channel of the Death Spiral, shouting, Ola, big sister, help. The captain's plan is going to fail. Just as his voice fell, it felt as if an invisible, absolute force suddenly intervened. Time didn't stop, but an extremely strange sense of stasis enveloped the scene. All the robots that were frantically attacking, cutting, and climbing froze in their tracks. The unsettling crimson light representing their killing program in their eyes instantly switched to blue standby indicators. Following that, these robots seemed to receive a high-priority command, synchronously jumping off the flyer and quietly retreating. What shocked Ghost Crocodile even more was that the engineering flyer preparing to crash into them, along with all the surrounding hovercraft trying to block their way, had their cockpit covers suddenly pushed open from the inside almost simultaneously. The drivers inside were rolling and crawling out, their faces pale as if they had seen a ghost, frantically jumping out of the vehicles to escape. Their eyes were filled with disbelief and terror, letting out heart-wrenching screams. Not good. What the hell? Intelligent machines. Help. They are back. Run. The name Intelligent Machines itself was enough to awaken humanity's oldest and deepest fears. The battered vehicles of Bloodshark and Ghost Crocodile roared with an engine straining under pressure, belching black smoke as they careened out of the tunnel exit without further obstruction. Just like that, they had narrowly escaped death. However, the cockpit of the cargo hovercraft was engulfed in a strange atmosphere, filled only with the wailing of the engine and the sound of alarms echoing. The two exchanged glances, both able to see the cold sweat on each other's pale faces and the deeper anxiety of having survived. Bloodshark had made the right gamble. but had also truly witnessed the terrifying power represented by that name, capable of rewriting the rules of reality in an instant. A feeling of both reassurance and trembling gripped his heart. Bloodshark swallowed hard. He looked at Ghost Crocodile. Ola must know our chat history. Ghost Crocodile remained silent, gripping the nearly malfunctioning steering wheel tighter, not daring to relax even for a moment. From deep within the tunnel behind them, more chaotic explosions and terrified screams faintly echoed, as if that invisible fear were rapidly spreading. On the two command assault boats of the Blackwater Bay Council, a report came through. Report. The first and second squads of attackers have lost signal. Report. The engineering team is out of control. All control units are forced offline. Report. We have lost control of the cleaners. Report. Multiple units report sightings of intelligent machine activity. Our people are breaking down. The operator's voice grew increasingly urgent, trembling with uncontainable fear, until it nearly turned into a scream. The young secretary's face darkened. Intelligent machines. On the main screen, alarms blared, and the terrified and chaotic screams and noises from various subteams filled the communication channels. How is this possible? The cleaner's base protocol is isolated. Could it be that someone has intervened? He muttered, his voice slightly trembling. Vice President Ding Lute stood with his hands behind his back, his deep-set eyes appearing even darker under the cold light of the screen. Intelligent machines, just a trick, merely an electronic warfare attack. Activate the contingency plan. Yes, the operator quickly responded, and communication was soon restored. Ding Lute refused to believe that possibility. But the failure of the main plan had raised his unease. The opponent had strong electromagnetic interference capabilities. Activate countermeasures, raise the threat level to maximum, and dispatch the special cavalry squad to engage. Vice President. This is an order. Today they must be stopped. The bottoms of the two assault boats immediately opened 3 suspensions, and 6 cavalry units detached and flew towards Bloodshark and Ghost Crocodile. Damn it. Blackwater Bay is determined to take us down. Isn't it? Ghost Crocodile and Bloodshark immediately noticed 6 humanoid combat machines swiftly approaching from the distant sky. In the distance, more than a dozen sleekly designed aircraft formed an attack formation, resembling a hunting flock of eagles, rushing in with a piercing sound. These iron steeds, having served for hundreds of years, relied on mechanical drives and fusion engines at their core. Because of this, they were particularly unaffected by the unknown strong electromagnetic interference. However, they were mistaken. Report. Fire control system malfunctioning, automatically searching for targets. What? It's our own people. I can't control it. It's operating on its own. It's over. Before the voice could finish, the sound of gunfire erupted. The more than 10 aircraft from the committee unleashed their missiles and cannons simultaneously, but their targets were not the damaged vehicles of Bloodshark and Ghost Crocodile, but rather the 6 unprotected iron steeds ahead. The distance was too close. They didn't have time to make any effective evasions. Boom, 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 boom. 6 brilliant and brutal fireballs exploded almost simultaneously in the air not far from Bloodshark and Ghost Crocodile. The scorching shockwaves and metal fragments swept towards them like a torrential rain, causing the armor of their flying vehicle to clatter. This sudden explosion attracted countless gazes from the Gear Industrial Zone. The Blackwater Bay Management Committee? Who are they targeting? Damn. Who is so fierce that they are clashing with Blackwater Bay? Wait, look. Hiss. After destroying the iron steeds, those aircraft in the sky spun wildly, as if being pulled by invisible threads, colliding with each other. Boom. More explosions followed, and debris from the aircraft rained down onto the Gear Industrial Zone, prompting screams and chaos from below. Silence. A deathly stillness. Bloodshark and Ghost Crocodile stood with their mouths agape, their minds blank. Is this the aura? In the distance, inside the committee's assault boat, all operators were frozen in their seats, their faces pale as paper, unable to make a sound. They stared at the control screens in front of them, filled with uncertainty, fearing that at any moment they too would inexplicably explode like those aircraft and iron steeds. The young secretary swayed slightly, gripping the safety railing, his eyes filled with unutterable fear as he looked at the back of Vice President Ding Lute. Something is not right. Vice President Ding Lute remained standing with his hands clasped behind his back. However, his once straight posture now slightly hunched. The deep shadows under his eyes, reflected by the cold light of the screen, were as heavy as an abyss. This had exceeded his comprehension. A chill from deep within his bones crawled up his spine, spreading throughout his body, numbing his soul and mind. An ancient fear was awakening. This was not a rival of equal standing. It was not even the interference technology of Zhuan Bei. This was a force he could not understand or contend with, a power that could arbitrarily alter any command, turning the most reliable weapon against its own. Eliminating all impossibilities, only one possibility remained. Intelligent machines. Ding Lute was bewildered, completely lost. Vice President. The young secretary rushed over, shaking Ding Lute's shoulder repeatedly. Ding Lute's pupils gradually lost focus. In the shocked gaze of everyone, the secretary officer slapped him hard across the face, yet Ding Lute remained unresponsive. Wake up. Quickly give the order. What should we do? Slap. Slap. The secretary officer struck him again, and Ding Lute's face visibly swelled. Command has failed. I'll take over. The secretary officer pushed him aside and quickly issued orders. Immediately activate the highest crisis alert. Lock down the launch pad, and at all costs, stop that truck. The secretary officer's eyes were fixed on the rapidly moving red dot, taking a deep breath. Ding Lute's judgment was correct. They could not allow these people to successfully launch the beacon. Otherwise, there would be no place for anyone to die. This was the final madness. It came so abruptly, so inopportunely. Chapter 123, Dark Crow Area C-74, Sector Y-09, Beacon Launch Platform. This was a large launch well located on the outer wall of the space station, with flickering navigation lights at the entrance, surrounded by dense maintenance platforms and energy conduits. The elite garrison troops of the Blackwater Bay Management Committee had fully taken over the area, now enveloped in a chilling atmosphere of impending conflict. The first batch of over 2,000 soldiers, dressed in uniform gray exoskeletons and wearing the Blackwater Pirate curved sword insignia, immediately occupied all key nodes and high ground, their pulse rifles glinting with a cold sheen in the dim light. 15 light armored vehicles and 3 assault boats blocked the main passage, with automated turrets on top slowly rotating, scanning for any suspicious movements. These were true soldiers, not pirates, and they were the cornerstone of the internal dominance of Blackwater Bay. The atmosphere was oppressive, like a powder keg waiting to ignite. A maximum state of alert has been issued. Without direct authorization from the committee, no vehicles or personnel are allowed to approach the Y-09 launch well. Any form of beacon loading and launch procedures are prohibited. Authorization to use lethal force granted. Disable all smart fire control systems. Switch to manual targeting. Cut off all electrical connections. Physically lock down all terminal entries. Heavy gates to be manually secured. Large reinforcements are on the way. Eliminate all intruders on the spot. The leading garrison officer's expression was stern as he repeatedly recited the state of emergency orders. Just a few hundred meters from the edge of this lethal platform, in the shadow of an abandoned maintenance hatch, Lien slowly emerged from the shadows, followed by hundreds of assault troops, including Ing and Kin from the falling Geese Guard. Everyone held their breath, their gazes focused on the dark golden figure standing at the front. Dark Crow. He stood there like a knight of slaughter emerging from the ancient temple of the Ima Empire. On his dark golden power armor, subtle energy flows flickered, and the imperial religious runes etched on the shoulder plates emanated an aura of unapproachable majesty in the dim light. The red optical lenses on his helmet coldly scanned the waiting garrison troops in the distance, as if examining a sacrificial offering. No words were spoken. Dark Crow simply raised his right hand slightly, making an extremely simple gesture of purification. In the next instant, he moved. Up. Act according to the plan. Prioritize seizing the control console and suppress the flanking fire points. Lien's voice was calm as she immediately led her team to follow. However, the Shadow Raven was too fast. The thrusters behind him erupted with a brilliant blue flame, propelling him at a speed beyond the naked eye's capture, boldly piercing into the most densely concentrated core area of the defending troops. Once this place was destroyed, the iron defense line would collapse without a fight. Enemy attack. Open fire freely. The piercing alarm and screams rang out almost simultaneously. The response from the defending troops was swift. Pulse rifles spat out dense beams of light, and manually operated turrets instantly locked onto the rapidly approaching dark golden shadow. Bang! The Shadow Raven crashed directly into the core area of the defending troops. Searing energy beams and kinetic projectiles grazed his armor, leaving only scorching trails in the air, failing to even ripple the flowing shield. For Her Majesty the Queen, purify the heretics. This fervent and steady voice sent chills down everyone's spine. The Shadow Raven had already begun his slaughter. He didn't even lift the phase pulse rifle in his hand. With his other armored arm, he deflected and shot out a beam blade about half a meter long, its edges flowing with high-energy particles. The blade flashed. The first light armored vehicle blocking his path, along with its driver inside, was precisely split in two. The surface as smooth as a mirror, and before the explosion could fully expand, the Shadow Raven had already passed through. What is that thing? A monster. A monster. Concentrate fire. Block him. Use countermeasures. The commander's voice was grave, but he still tried to maintain command. More firepower poured in like a torrential storm. Not good. It's coming at me. The commander was horrified. The Shadow Raven charged through the barrage, and with one giant mechanical hand, he grasped the helmet of his opponent, closing his fingers in the face of extreme terror. Bang! Along with the nano helmet, blood erupted. Such a brutal decapitation left the surrounding soldiers gasping for breath. Bastard! Die for me! A burly man in heavy power armor, with officer insignia on his shoulder, roared as he charged from the flank, swinging a heavy magnetic rail hammer that screamed through the air toward the Shadow Raven's head. The Shadow Raven didn't even turn around, stabbing him through with a reverse stroke of his sword. The light was searing. The squad leader's body suddenly stiffened, his visor instantly stained red. And then he heavily knelt on the ground, lifeless. The entire process took less than a second. The defending team, now without command, instantly collapsed. Each soldier attempting to fight independently under their respective officers, trying to use crossfire to block the Shadow Raven's movement route. Flank! Flank! There are people coming. It was the assault team led by Lien, who took advantage of the chaos created by the Shadow Raven to quickly occupy the auxiliary control console on the left and several key fire points, starting a fierce counterattack on the defending troops from the side and rear. A few people come with me. We must take out those turrets behind. Third squad, hurry up. In the distance, 3 armored vehicles that had just adjusted their gun angles appeared, and the Shadow Raven finally raised the phased pulse rifle that he had not yet used. Without aiming, he casually fired a few shots. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. The armored vehicle's turret instantly detonated, transforming into 3 fiery masses of scrap metal. Then, 2 more shots rang out. Above the pier, 2 soldiers attempted to lock onto him with a heavy sniper rifle, only to have blood burst from their helmets as they fell silently to the ground. Fear spread wildly among the defending troops. Their attacks were ineffective, their formation easily torn apart, and their comrades were harvested like weeds. Monster! Monster! Retreat! Quick, retreat! Hold the entrance to the launch silo. Wait for reinforcements. If we hold on any longer, we'll be dead. Call for the cavalry. Only the cavalry can take him down. The signal is cut off. We need missile support. A squad leader, witnessing the chaotic situation, flashed a look of determination. We can't let them succeed. Quick, break open the launch silo. I'll ignite the reactor. Are you crazy? That will blow up. Holding on will also lead to death. All right, I'll stop that monster. Explosions and screams filled the air. 2 loyal soldiers, red-eyed, charged forward attempting to engage in hand-to-hand combat. The shadowy figure moved swiftly, executing the purification ritual faithfully. The squad leader, trying to destroy the launch silo, along with a few trusted subordinates, rushed to the gate and began to blast it. Hurry, blow it up, he shouted, slashing through the heavy hydraulic lock with a cutting tool. Just as he was about to throw a grenade inside, the shadowy figure arrived. A blazing white pulse beam, like the whisper of death, precisely pierced the squad leader's skull, giving him no time to react. The beam continued unabated, consecutively piercing the chests of the 2 soldiers behind him, nailing all 3 to the cold alloy gate like a skewered treat. This ultra-alloy combat exoskeleton, 15 millimeters thick, was as fragile as paper. In the distance, the shadowy figure had just retracted the barrel of the phased pulse rifle, the crimson optical sight barely lingering on the corpses for a second. With a casual swing of the lightsaber in his other hand, he cleaved a power-armored soldier charging from the side in half, spilling entrails and oil everywhere. This time, the cooling system failed, and a violent explosion from the small reactor sent shockwaves through the area. Boom! The explosion erupted. Evade! The commander shouted, seeking cover. The flames from the explosion illuminated the shadowy figure, standing unscathed amidst the fire. This strike shattered the remaining defending soldiers' morale completely. Faced with such incomprehensible slaughter efficiency, any courage and discipline crumbled. They were human, not death warriors, and they dropped their weapons, screaming as they fled backward. The shadowy figure did not pursue. The commander took the opportunity to press forward with the assault team, quickly clearing out sporadic resistance and securing key passage nodes. Control the flanks, deploy defenses. Check the status of the launch silo. The corridor is clear. Someone's gaze occasionally swept over the Dark Raven, filled with awe. Yet that heartbeat was still hard to shake off. This power had already surpassed any limits that these pirates had ever encountered. In the next moment, the engine roared. The ghost crocodile piloted a dilapidated cargo hovercraft, trailing black smoke, and narrowly docked at the edge of the platform. Everyone immediately began to unload, transferring the heavy beacons into the launch pit. The Dark Raven stood independently above the platform, its dark gold armor shimmering amidst the flames and smoke. In front of it was the entrance and exit of the launch pit. A crowd of reinforcements from the bay rushed in, dozens of assault boats, hundreds of armored hovercraft, and countless pirates from the bay, brandishing weapons and shouting as they rushed forward. The exorbitant bounty from the management committee of the bay ignited the most primal greed. Killing the occupiers of Area C-74 and Sector Y-09 would yield a bounty of 10 star coins per head, and if they could stop the launch beacon, 1,000,000 star coins were up for grabs. The dark golden figure merely stood silently, as if waiting for the next purification. Chapter 124. Are you bullying honest people? Area C-74, Sector Y-09, beacon launch entrance. Charging begins. Outside the platform, The deep space launch armor plates slid open layer by layer, revealing a dizzyingly complex array of gigantic energy conduit rings below. The 3-meter diameter white beacon amplifier began to rotate, charging up. Charging complete. Boom. The launch pit roared. A white light shot out, accurately landing in the void of C-74, Y-09 a few seconds later, this area being empty for dozens of kilometers. At least 100 kilometers away from the edge of the shattered star vortex. The beacon had reached its designated coordinates. The jump signal was sent. Mission accomplished. Lien reported to the communication terminal. Subsequently, everyone became vigilant, facing the overwhelming army of pirates from the bay. A long, narrow assault boat slowly docked on an open space a few hundred meters away. The hatch slid open, and a young secretary hurriedly stepped down, followed by 2 guards escorting old Pitu. He was dressed impeccably, incongruous with the surrounding war-torn environment, wearing a deliberately maintained calm expression. But his slightly hurried steps and flickering gaze betrayed his inner unrest. His gaze quickly swept over the debris scattered across the ground, the charred wreckage, and the still warm bodies. Lingering for a moment on the headless body of a guard, his eyes twitching involuntarily. Finally, his gaze settled on the figure standing in the center of the platform. The dark raven, resembling a dark golden deity. The secretary took a deep breath, forcibly suppressing his heartbeat, and forced a professional smile as he stepped forward and stopped. "Your Excellency," he said, striving to keep his voice steady. "I represent the management committee of the Bay, here to communicate." His wording was cautious, avoiding any demonstrative language. The dark raven seemed to have received an order and did not move. Lien stepped forward, operating a wrist device, and a holographic projection lit up. It was an audio message from Lu Ling. The secretary instantly understood. The real decision-maker of this group had not actually come in person. "Communication?" Lu Ling's voice came through. "What are we communicating about? I just bought a beacon to sell, and you sent someone to intercept me, creating such a big scene? This doesn't seem to follow the rules of the area, does it?" The secretary's humble smile stiffened for a moment, realizing that this person was not easy to deal with. He quickly glanced at the old man and spoke with a more respectful, yet subtly sharp tone. "Your Excellency is being too harsh. This conflict is indeed a misunderstanding." He slightly turned to shift the blame onto the old man. "This person has violated the regulations regarding large beacons, seriously breaching Article 11, Clause 3 of the beacon regulations. The committee, in order to ensure the safety and stability of the waterways, took necessary control measures to recover the beacon. I hope you can understand." He transformed the interception into a regulatory measure and completely shifted the responsibility onto the old man, attempting to position himself on the high ground of the rules. "Misunderstanding? You think my people are easy to kill? If they were easy to kill, would there still be a misunderstanding?" The secretary lowered his gaze, knowing that the other party was clearly well aware of the entire process. He forced himself to calm down. "Your skills are impressive, but we have our own regulations in this area that keep us standing strong." The meaning of this statement was clear. Our strength is backed by a powerful entity. Lu Ling paused. "Is it Parker?" "Parker." The secretary felt a chill run down his spine. They all knew who Parker was. However, hearing the other party casually mention that name made his heart tremble. Who exactly are these people? Nevertheless, he didn't dare to flaunt Parker's name, especially with so many eyes on them. While we may not be directly related to Master Parker, our backing is closely tied to him. And it's not something you can provoke. The audio communication shifted to show the upper half of Lu Ling's body. This surprised the secretary slightly. The other party seemed to be on a bridge of a ship and appeared quite young. Lu Ling continued, "Since you've brought up Parker, I'm not unreasonable. How about this? You return the money for the beacon, and we'll consider this matter resolved." The secretary breathed a sigh of relief. Clearly, this formidable opponent was preparing to back down. He signaled his subordinates to bring the old man up and, with a cold voice, demanded, "Tell me, how much was the beacon?" The old man trembled. He hadn't expected Bloodshark's background to be so formidable that even the local authority was willing to concede. "I haven't even received the payment." Smack. The secretary delivered a sharp slap to him. "How much did you agree on?" 8,000. No, 5,000. The secretary was furious. A beacon worth 100,000 on the black market was sold by this old fool for a mere 5,000. He took a deep breath and returned to a normal tone. "Your Excellency, we are willing to compensate you for your loss at market price, 100,000 star coins, which will be delivered shortly." 100,000? That's not right. Lu Ling's voice was light. "I spent 500 million. 500 million. The entire room gasped in shock. Bloodshark, who had been trying hard to keep a low profile among the assault team, immediately understood. He pushed past his teammates and stepped forward, drawing everyone's attention. "That's right. I spent 500 million buying it from this big swindler." The secretary's expression stiffened, and his gaze became restrained. "Your Excellency, please don't joke around." The old man quickly retorted, a flush appearing on his face. "Nonsense. You didn't pay me a dime." The Bloodshark sneered, removing his mask, and when his face was revealed, the onlookers erupted in an uproar. It's Bloodshark. It's actually Bloodshark. Are they from the Red Army? Under Feng Ling's command. Didn't they defect from the Red Devils? How dare they come here now? Quick! Call Rachel to clean up this mess. If we wait too long, there won't be a chance left. Hearing this, the secretary's expression turned slightly cold as he quietly watched Bloodshark perform, lost in thought. Everyone knew Bloodshark. He never missed a shot when it came to his words. Bloodshark raised his voice. I spent 500 million on this from the old man here. Haha. If you had 500 million, that guy over there would be licking my feet tonight. Shoo, he's right behind you. Bloodshark, come down. Don't be a clown. As the onlookers mocked him, the old man regained his confidence and shouted, You didn't pay a single cent. A mere Red Army soldier. How could you have 500 million? You probably can't even pull out 5,000 star coins in cash. Facing the laughter and the old man's shouts, Bloodshark remained unfazed, instead scoffing and poking his chest with his thick finger. His voice rose sharply, filled with a mix of bravado and indignation. I can't afford the money. I can pay whatever amount. Am I someone who wouldn't pay? I not only spent 500 million, but it was in cash. 50 containers, 10 million in each box. All brand new star coins, stacked neatly. Then, Bloodshark summoned a holographic video. It showed the scene when Parker sent the money. 50 containers piled high, star coins stacked like mountains. At this moment, everyone was stunned. It wasn't because of Bloodshark, but because 500 million star coins looked like so much. The pirates were breathing heavily, having never seen so much money in their lives. The secretary narrowed his eyes. These people seemed well prepared. He wasn't sure if they were using the Red Army as a guise to deceive others. As the oppressive aura from that shadowy figure was strong, and didn't appear to be someone the Red Army could control. The noise continued. Fake! Fake! The old man shouted. He didn't give me a single cent. Blackwater Bay must stand up for me. Upon hearing this, Bloodshark was about to confront him, but was stopped by the guards of Blackwater Bay. The old man took 2 steps back in fear, relieved to see him blocked. He knew he couldn't win against this brute. Hey, you old man, do you think the beacon will be lit for me without money? Bloodshark abruptly turned to the secretary, nearly spitting in his face, his voice filled with anger and accusation. Isn't Blackwater Bay supposed to follow the rules? Huh, I followed your rules, paid for goods. Money and goods exchanged clearly. Then you send people to kill and rob. If you don't kill them, you say it's a misunderstanding? Now I come to demand an explanation, and you all refuse to acknowledge it? You even turn the tables and say I'm extorting you. Bloodshark became increasingly agitated, suddenly pointing at the headless body of the guard on the ground, then at the surrounding pirate army with fierce eyes, and finally at the pale-faced old man, his arm trembling as he shouted, Aren't you just bullying honest people? Silence. The entire scene was hushed. Bloodshark's impassioned performance, twisting the truth and portraying himself as the victim, left everyone stunned. It wasn't that the big guy hadn't seen shamelessness before, but he had never witnessed such audacity. Lien and her assault team members twitched their lips, barely holding back laughter. Finally understanding why the captain had sent this lively character, the old man trembled with rage, pointing at Bloodshark, nearly losing his breath from the intensity. The secretary's face turned ashen. He realized that the other side was deliberately provoking them. The blatant disrespect for the committee's authority overshadowed his earlier unease caused by the mention of Parker. He had to stand up now. If he backed down today, anyone could ride on the neck of the bay in the future. The secretary waved his hand, and the guards behind him immediately stepped forward, roughly pushing Bloodshark aside. Hey, Bloodshark shouted, Is there no law? Is there no justice? If you don't give me an explanation today, we won't be done. The secretary calmed down. This farce needed to end. He turned to Lu Ling. His tone was no longer respectful, but cold and detached. Characteristic of someone in power, 100,000 star coins will be compensated by the Bay. Freedom of trade has always been the foundation of the Bay's existence. Considering this is your first time, this is the committee's final mercy and a warning. Then, his gaze slowly swept over Lien, the Dark Crow, and all the assault team members. As for these individuals, who had trespassed into a restricted area, attacked the guard forces, and damaged important facilities, he slightly raised his chin and spoke in a judgmental tone. If you insist on challenging the rules of the Bay, we are always ready. The secretary paused for a moment, finally fixing his gaze on Lu Ling's projection. As a necessary lesson, let your subordinates remain here forever. He took a step back and made a very simple gesture to the guards behind him. Clean it up, leave no one behind. The captain of the guards grinned and nodded, raising his hand, signaling all the armed personnel to prepare their weapons, waiting for his command. The secretary adjusted his collar and turned, ready to walk straight to his assault boat. However, just as he turned and took the first step, Lu Ling's calm voice clearly reached his ears through the projection, reverberating across the silent platform. So, you're not just going to kill my subordinates, but you're also determined to swallow the remaining 499 990,000 of mine? The secretary's footsteps abruptly halted, and despite his usual composure, his anger peaked at this moment. Lu Ling's voice continued. In that case, I can only come and reason with you myself. In the next second, before he could react or the surrounding soldiers of the bay could open fire, a deep and intense spatial fluctuation resonated through the outer armor. The entire bay began to shake slightly. Not far away, the area illuminated by the beacon, designated C-74Y09, suddenly flickered, and a burst of transition light shone forth. A massive ship emerged from within, its elongated hull cloaked in dark armor like eternal night, with enormous luminous wings at the bow resembling the blades of a grim reaper, slicing through the void as it glided toward the bay. At that moment, a warning was issued from the bay's watchtower. Warning. Unauthorized large battleship detected in the near defense zone. C-74Y09 airspace. All units enter level 1 combat readiness. Repeat. All units enter. The warning abruptly cut off, replaced by an eerie, chilling silence. Subsequently, on all screens that were still operational, whether on the tactical visor of soldiers' helmets, the backup interface of the weapon control console, or the wristband of the secretary that had just issued the red alert, data and images vanished in an instant. What is happening? Communication has completely dropped? All indicators are unresponsive. The secretary's recently regained composure froze. This is impossible. The bay's firewall is from the retired naval forces, he murmured, beads of sweat instantly forming on his forehead. Look over there. At that moment, a soldier pointed toward the massive transparent observation dome outside the platform. Everyone's gaze was instantly drawn there. Outside the porthole of the dome, a shadow so enormous it defied description filled the view, not fully visible, yet slowly approaching at an almost insulting distance. It's a battleship. My God, is that a ghost ship? The secretary felt a chill shoot from his spine to the top of his head, his limbs turning icy instantaneously. He suddenly glanced at Blood Shark and the others, as well as the Dark Raven. It struck him that the dark golden power armor on the Dark Raven was not something mere pirates could possess. However, it was too late to react, and a more despairing scene unfolded. The outer defense platforms and turrets, originally meant to punish the invading enemies, all turned to aim at the bay itself. Destruction loomed, brutally and visibly confronting everyone. The secretary's throat tightened. Lu Ling's voice reappeared, but this time it was alarmingly close, as if whispered in his ear. I heard you've been bullying honest people. Chapter 125. The situation. The secretary was startled and looked around. The place was empty. You've invaded my private encrypted channel, he shouted, hastily tearing off the encrypted communicator from his ear and smashing it to the ground. However, Lu Ling's voice did not cease, instead echoing through the public address system across the launch platform, clearly resonating in every corner. I'm not unreasonable. The same condition as before, 500 million, deliver it now, and we'll consider this matter resolved. He deliberately paused, his tone still flat, yet it sent a chilling sense of death through everyone present. Otherwise, after today, there would be no Blackwater Bay for Zwanjibai. A wave of humiliation and impotent anger surged within the secretary. His father was the chairman of the Blackwater Bay Management Committee, and he had been raised with noble refinement. Even when his father arranged for him to get involved in management affairs, he had always been diligent and cautious, earning praise from both committee members and colleagues for his thorough approach. How could he have ever faced such blatant threats and humiliation? He had fallen into a trap. From the very beginning, this was a scheme. No, it was an unabashed robbery. The so-called dispute was merely an excuse at hand. But what could he do? Refuse him and face the prospect of burying the entire Blackwater Bay along with 500 million star coins? Just as his mind was in turmoil, a mix of humiliation and fear, Ding Lut came out, leaning against the side of the assault boat, his cheeks still slightly swollen. The look of confusion and despair in his deep-set eyes had vanished, replaced by a weary clarity. Vice Chairman Ding Lut pushed away the guard who tried to help him and slowly walked to the secretary's side, speaking clearly. Losing is losing, since there's still room for negotiation. Call your father now. Get him the money. Hearing this, the secretary's fingers trembled, but he eventually nodded with difficulty and took out another communication device with higher authority. The communication was almost instantly connected, and it was clear that the other side was also paying close attention to everything here. He paused, feeling a sense of shame that nearly rendered him mute. However, the voice soon came through the communicator. I already know. Stay alive first. There will be a future. Agree to the terms. The communication was abruptly cut off. Lu Ling's voice was playful, as if he had heard everything clearly. How long until it's delivered? The captain is very busy. Each word felt like a slap in the face to the secretary. Never had anyone dared to speak to him like that. He forced down the boiling anger and humiliation and squeezed out 3 words through clenched teeth. 2 hours. After saying those words, it felt as if he had exhausted all his strength. Lu Ling's projection vanished. The secretary looked up and saw the mocking gaze of Bloodshark a few meters away. Blackwater Bay, the Sky City. It was also the true center of power in Blackwater Bay. At the top of the Blackwater Tower, the committee's conference hall was filled with the 7 senior members of the committee, aside from Vice Chairman Dinglut. The chairman, the secretary's father, Blackwater Horn, sat in the main seat. The heavy alloy doors were tightly closed, and the surrounding curtains were drawn, isolating them from the noise and artificial cloud sea outside Sky City. Only the cold ambient lights and the low hum of the circulation system remained. The atmosphere was oppressive. On the central holographic projection, C-74 Zone, Y-09 Sector, a glaring crimson dot occupied that space, a silhouette that had only appeared in drills since the birth of Blackwater Bay, never in reality. It was the emblematic outline exclusive to hostile battleships. Red alert is triggered. Cleanup protocol invalid. 3rd Iron Cavalry Squadron annihilated. 1st and 2nd Fighter Squadrons annihilated. 7th Defense Force defeated. Regional communications and sensor networks completely paralyzed. This is a declaration of war. An aged voice broke the silence, blocking the doorway, demanding 500 million. Arrogant. Arrogant. The commissioner responsible for the external military security of the base scoffed. Did you read the report clearly? It is highly likely that the ship that defeated the Dragon Shield escort fleet is that ghost ship. Our artillery and fleet are no match for it, and could turn their fire on our own at any moment. Do you dare to fight? How about this? I'll take my share and leave. Whoever has the capability can go fight. Orion, mind your words. 500 million. That is our strategic reserve accumulated over many years. Giving it away just like that means we may have to kneel and offer our hands tomorrow when they come again. Is there any dignity left? Dignity? The safety commissioner named Orion sneered and retorted. You thought this through, haven't you? My people just died by the hundreds. Can the treasury withstand the main guns of a battleship? Enough. An elderly commissioner spoke up. He was Lawrence, the financial commissioner of the Bay. 500 million absolutely cannot be given. That includes the dividends for that lord, and we don't have that much to spare. If we give it away, the operations of the Bay will collapse. At this, everyone fell silent, some looking toward the President Horn, who held the strongest and largest influence among the commissioners, and had held the president's seat for nearly a century. Horn said nothing. We have battleships too. A young man, at over 70 years old, had taken the position of trade commissioner. Behind him were, of course, various interests at play. But one could not deny his capabilities. Orion immediately cursed. Foolish. I said, if you were in my position, you would know how terrifying the opponent is. And that battleship, is it yours? Can you command the navy of Juangbi? Orion, you call me foolish? I think you are the one who is extremely foolish. It's just a battleship. Look at how scared you are. As long as the president makes a call, can the navy not come? At least a fully equipped fleet can enter the airspace. It's just a wild battleship. What are you really afraid of? Moreover, when the navy of Juangbi arrives, the electronic interference will be lifted, and all fire control will be restored. We will attack from both sides, and this arrogant one will surely perish. The safety commissioner Orion chuckled. Arguing with someone who only knows how to talk theory is pointless. Financial Commissioner Lawrence spoke again. Even if the navy of Juangbi comes, it will take 40 minutes. Can we hold out for that long? We can delay for 2 hours. Anyway, the money absolutely cannot be given. Once we lower our heads, there will be no chance to raise them again. Or, we can threaten him, activate the final destruction protocol of the Bay, and perish together with him. Are you crazy? Is it worth it for 500 million? I said it's a threat. Can we talk? 500 million is too much. 100 million will do for now. Let's stabilize the situation, and when the naval forces arrive, we can reclaim it then. Negotiation? Negotiate with robbers? How is that business? It's easy to invite a deity but hard to send them away. Do you think that just letting the naval forces in will solve everything? They might want even more. The chamber fell into a heated argument. Everyone had their reasons. Some wanted to escape, some wanted to give in, while others suggested making empty promises. And there were even calls for mutual destruction. Enough. A low yet penetrating voice instantly silenced the noise. Chairman Horn raised his eyes and glanced at everyone. What do you think this place is? A rusted city? All the committee members quieted down, their gazes focused on him. What does Vice Chairman Dilute mean? He's asking us to agree to the other party's conditions, a secretary whispered. Horn acknowledged with a hum. Dilute was on the front line, and his judgment was closer to the truth than our speculations here. His decision is my decision. Chairman, no way. The Trade Committee and Finance Committee member Lawrence spoke almost simultaneously. Horn looked at them and then at Orion, the Security Committee member. If I let you fight, what are the chances of success? Orion laughed, activating the destruction protocol 100%, or rather, 0%. A cold glint flashed in the Trade Committee member's eyes. Foolish. Just wait for the chairman to call in the naval forces, and everything will be resolved. Orion shrugged indifferently. Fine, you let the chairman call. Chairman. At this moment, most committee members turned their gazes toward him. Horn sighed. The reason he could maintain his position was because of his relationship with the naval forces. These people did not fear him, but the person behind him. Horn spoke again. It seems most of you insist on requesting the naval forces intervention and are willing to take full responsibility for all subsequent negotiations and any potential losses exceeding 500 million? The trade committee member immediately replied, so what? We give the money to the naval forces and establish a connection with these pirates. What do we have left? That makes sense, someone echoed. Horn shot him a cold glance, then raised his hand to take out a communication device. After multiple verifications, he slowly pressed a button. At this, everyone leaned in to listen. Once the communication request was sent, each second of waiting felt like a century. After a long wait tone, the communication was finally connected. There was no image on the screen, only a deep and authoritative voice came through, tinged with impatience. Horn? I told you. Unless the sky is falling, don't disturb me. Horn straightened his body, his tone humble and serious. My lord, there is indeed an urgent matter. He did not dare to conceal anything, using the simplest language to quickly and clearly report on the appearance of the Death Spiral-class battleship. The immediate collapse of the defense team, the system being easily compromised, and the ultimatum for 500 million star coins. There was a brief silence on the other end of the communication. This silence weighed heavily on the hearts of every committee member, making them afraid to even breathe. A few seconds later, the voice sounded again, and the displeasure faded away, replaced by an intrigued tone. Battleship? Tell me more. Horn quickly reported, including the shape of the Death Vortex and its formidable electronic warfare capabilities. There was silence on the other end for a moment. Interesting, I know who it is now. The voice paused. Horn. Give it to him. These two words caused all the committee members' hearts to sink, but Horn remained relatively calm. My lord, that's 500 million in cash. If it's withdrawn, the funding chain of Blackwater Bay will break, and this year's dividends will likely. The voice on the other end interrupted coldly. It seems you have made a mistake. Blackwater Bay belongs to Juanby, and every star coin left here belongs to Juanby. Granting you management rights does not mean ownership is yours. As for that 500 million, I believe you misunderstood. The portion taken is yours. My money is still in your treasury. Ultimately, it is your mismanagement that led to this trouble, so the losses will naturally come from your share. This year's dividends, whatever method you use, if there's even a single coin missing, you will bear the consequences. The communication was abruptly cut off, leaving no room for negotiation. Finance Committee member Lawrence turned pale. The Trade Committee member slumped in his chair, staring blankly. Horn slowly put down the communicator, his expression unreadable. But a hint of gloom flashed in his eyes as he stood up. Do as instructed, Orion, go maintain order. Remember to cooperate with the Lord's dividend when it comes time for year-end settlement. He emphasized the word cooperate heavily. The doors opened and then closed again. Finance Committee member Lawrence trembled as he took out the datapad, starting to execute the chairman's orders. With every input, his face grew paler. Orion adjusted his collar and stood up to go maintain order in the treasury. The remaining members could only sigh helplessly. On the launch platform, Orion had already commanded the guards to disperse the onlookers, leaving the area empty and quiet, with only the mechanical hum of cargo hovercraft unloading containers. Bloodshark crossed his arms, his thick fingers rhythmically tapping on his arms, a smug smile on his face. Awesome. So awesome. His gaze fell on the figure in the distance, always guarded by Blackwater Bay's soldiers. Old Skinhead, come here. Old Skinhead shivered at the call, glancing at the expressionless guard beside him, then at Bloodshark's half-smiling face, slowly making his way over. When he reached Bloodshark, he looked at the tall figure and then at the neatly stacked containers. Take it. Bloodshark moved closer and whispered, now that the money is here, take it quickly. 5,000, 8,000, a million, take as you like. Old Skinhead suddenly knelt down with a thud, flailing his hands and crying, Shark Master, I remembered wrong. You already gave me the money. Don't. Bloodshark crouched down, leaning closer. Aren't you fond of reporting? Old Skinhead was terrified, his spirit almost leaving his body. Spare me. Spare me. I was confused. I was talking nonsense. Bloodshark's smile gradually faded. He straightened up, looking down at the mud beneath him with an imposing gaze. The last trace of mockery fading from his eyes, leaving only pure coldness and murderous intent. If it weren't for the presence of the other, he and the creature would already be dead. This is your last chance. Will you take it? The old man trembled like a leaf. The Bloodshark shook its head, dragging him backward with one hand. I'm giving you a chance, but you're useless. Chapter 126. Tiger, Dragon, Leopard in the Void. 194 light-years away from the autonomous region of Zhuangbai, a transport ship from the Blood Alliance was smoothly navigating through a jump corridor. Inside the cramped 12-person crew quarters, snores and mumblings filled the air. Zhao Long lay on the hard upper bunk, unable to sleep. Outside the porthole, the distorted flow of jump light reflected the fatigue and anxiety in his eyes. Every time he closed his eyes, He was haunted by the hellish scenes from the solitary grave base 2 days ago. He and his brother, Zhao Hu, failed to board the boss's battleship as planned. The port area was finally in sight, and they could even see the shadow of the massive ship. But just a few hundred meters away, it was within reach yet unattainable. Zhao Long and Zhao Hu had never witnessed such a terrifying sight. The entire port area, and most of the visible airspace, was suddenly engulfed by an endless blaze of white destructive light. Thousands of death beams rained down mercilessly, washing away and tearing apart every inch of the solitary grave base's structure. Zhao Long and Zhao Hu could only hide deep within, seeking cover, and fortunately, they survived. But the ship was gone. Despair instantly gripped their hearts. With their escape route cut off, they were trapped in this grave on the brink of destruction. Driven by the instinct to survive, Zhao Long pulled his nearly limp brother Zhao Hu, crawling and rolling away from the port towards the depths of the base, desperate to put as much distance as possible between them and that infernal destruction. By a twist of fate, they stumbled into a passage that seemed to be controlled by the Blood Alliance. Chaos reigned here as well, but the two quickly noticed a small transport ship docked nearby, measuring about 300 meters in length. Hundreds of Blood Alliance pirates, under the roar of a scar-faced miner leader, were desperately moving cargo onto the ship. Zhao Long, looking back at the crumbling solitary grave base, made up his mind and mixed in with a few pirates to squeeze aboard. Just as their feet stepped into the cargo hold, the heavy hatch behind them let out a piercing metallic screech as it began to close. The thunderous tremor was far from over. A massive piece of metal debris exploded from somewhere, engulfed in flames and smoke, and crashed precisely onto the loading platform they had just passed. The explosion and shockwave instantly consumed the pirates who hadn't boarded in time. A scar-faced pirate leader shouted, "Close the door. Hurry up and close it. Speed it up." The hatch finally locked tight, isolating them from the searing waves of destruction. And a sense of safety washed over everyone. The transport ship trembled as it successfully departed the deadly area under the cover of the solitary grave base. They had not managed to board the boss's ship. By some twist of fate, they found themselves aboard a transport ship with an unclear destination, following the treasure-hunting team of the Blood Alliance. Coming back to reality from a thrilling memory, Zhao Long instinctively glanced at the lower bunk, where Zhao Hu was sound asleep, occasionally twitching as if still fleeing in a dream. At least they had survived. Just then, the dormitory door swung open, and a lean figure slipped in with agile movements. Zhao Long sharply closed his eyes, pretending to sleep, leaving just a slit to observe. The newcomer wore a somewhat dirty uniform of the lower ranks of the Blood Alliance. With a vigilant gaze, Zhao Long recognized him. He was nicknamed Spotted Leopard. Usually quiet, he had a knack for obtaining extra rations or avoiding trouble at critical moments, making him an enigmatic figure in this lower cabin that no one dared to provoke easily. Leopard didn't return to his bunk, but approached Zhao Long's lower bunk and whispered, "Kanto S here, looking furious. Seems there's been an issue in the D12 power pump room, and he's looking for someone to vent his anger on. You guys were in the D14 filtration area last cycle. There's a record of it. Stay clear. On this ship, even the slightest oversight could be amplified. And even someone like the scar-faced Kanto wouldn't be questioned for taking out a few who broke the rules." Zhao Long instantly understood this was both a warning and a test. He opened his eyes and quietly replied, "Thanks, Leopard. We just came from D14 and haven't been to D12. This was the truth, and also a way to draw a line, indicating that potential trouble wouldn't fall on them." Leopard seemed to just want to confirm the risk, nodded, and was about to return to his bunk to rest. However, at that moment, the door was suddenly kicked open with a bang, crashing against the metal wall, startling everyone awake, including those in the adjacent dormitory. Scar-faced Kanto stood at the door, his expression fierce. Everyone in the dormitory sat up in alarm, and those in the next dormitory peeked out, but quickly retreated upon seeing Kanto. "Damn it, who's responsible for D12? Did one of you careless fools touch something you shouldn't have? Get out here. Assemble." There was no reasoning to be had. All the pirates in the dormitory, no matter how deeply they had been sleeping, were roused by kicks and shouts, rubbing their eyes but daring not to complain. Zhao Long and Zhao Hu quickly put on their dirty work uniforms, while Leopard silently followed beside them, exchanging a wary glance. Kanto, cursing, herded them toward the pump room area. The D12 auxiliary power pump room was located in the lower section of the main engine room. As the heavy airtight door opened, a wave of heat rushed out, mixed with the acrid smells of coolant and oil. The massive pump was roaring, but a sharp hissing sound from a leak was particularly grating. On the floor, green coolant was gushing from a broken pipe joint, forming a slick puddle, while a white, irritating mist filled the air. A few pirates who were originally responsible for this area stood pale nearby, soaked, and clearly the ones on duty at that moment. Kanto kicked the leg of a nearby pirate, who was standing idle. "You bunch of useless fools, you can't even secure a pressure valve properly. Now the leak has triggered a level 2 alarm. If you don't find a way to stop it before it reaches the bridge, I'll have you all sealed in this leak. He glared at the row of people in front of him with a cold gaze. The hundreds of pirates under Kanto's command were not the original crew of the transport ship. They were just provided with food and shelter and naturally had to work. Thus, some miscellaneous tasks were assigned to Kanto, but he didn't know how to do them, so he just randomly assigned them. He couldn't even remember who was supposed to do what. It was always a case of pointing to whoever. The pressure valve had broken during the last duty cycle. Why wasn't it reported? Now there's a leak. Are you all looking for death? Kanto's eyes were sharp like knives, slicing through the faces of each pirate who had been forcibly gathered here. His gaze swept over the crowd, trying to find the unfortunate soul responsible for this incident. As he said, most of the low-level personnel on this ship were hastily assembled, with chaotic management and vague responsibilities, making it difficult to pinpoint a clear culprit when something went wrong. But that didn't stop him from finding a scapegoat to vent his anger and shirk responsibility. No pirate dared to speak up. Not saying anything, huh? Kanto sneered, suddenly reaching out and roughly grabbing the collar of the nearest pirate to him, which happened to be Zhao Hu. It's you. Were you on duty during the last cycle? Huh. Concealing the truth, that's an even greater crime. Zhao Hu was choked and turned red in the face. No, it wasn't me, boss. Still trying to argue. Kanto raised his hand to strike. Just then, Zhao Long stepped forward, his voice urgent, but trying to remain calm. Boss, during the last cycle, our brothers were on duty in the D-14 filtration area. The pump room issue has nothing to do with us, and we were just changing the filter over there. As he spoke, he rolled up his sleeve, revealing chemical stains and slight burn marks unique to the D-14 area on his forearm. Kanto wasn't foolish. He pulled back Zhao Long's arm and indeed saw those marks. Leopard, timely adding in a low voice, said, Boss, according to those mechanics' lousy manual, if this main interface breaks, we need to check the handover log. If the last shift marked it as normal during the handover, then this mess is on them. His rough words instantly sparked a realization in Kanto. The pirate gang was chaotic, but there were still basic handover rules in place. Typically, a simple log was hung on the wall, where the outgoing and incoming personnel would make a mark or write normal to indicate responsibility. Though rudimentary, this was the first piece of evidence for accountability when things went wrong. Kanto's aggressive gaze shifted from Zhao Hu to the oil-stained log board on the pump room wall. He strode over, yanked the board down violently, and squinted at the crooked symbols and rough time marks on it. Damn it, he cursed, suddenly smashing the log board towards the few pirates on duty. The last shift marked it as normal? Which son of a dog drew this? Didn't he, the idiot who handed it over, say there was a problem? In an instant, the blame shifted. In the rough management logic of the pirates, it was clear that the previous shift had concealed the issue or failed to conduct proper checks, leading to this leak. While the current shift may have exacerbated the problem due to improper handling, the root cause lay with the previous team. Kanto's anger quickly found a more specific target. He no longer focused on Zhao Hu but turned to the group of culprits, shouting, which one of you from the last shift is responsible? Speak up. What was said during the handover? The few pirates were terrified and stammered, shifting blame onto each other, creating further chaos. Kanto was utterly enraged. He kicked the nearest pirate to the ground, shouting, useless. All of you are useless. You can't even manage something so simple. However, he no longer needed to find a vague scapegoat. He now had a clear direction for accountability. He spat on the ground and glanced back at Zhao Long and the others. You three, don't just stand there. Go get the absorbent cotton and drainage channels. And make sure these useless fools do their job. If they mess up again, you'll be in trouble too. Yes, boss. Zhao Long immediately replied, pulling the still shaken Zhao Hu along, exchanging a glance with Leopard Brother. The three quickly moved towards the material storage area. They brought back heavy absorbent cotton and drainage channels. Watching as the unfortunate pirates, under Kanto's shouts and kicks, scrambled to plug the leaks and clean up. Amidst the chaos, curses, and sweat, the leak was finally brought under rough control. Kanto, cursing, left with the pale-faced pirates and the instigator from the previous shift, likely to report to higher-ups and seek further accountability. By the time Zhao Long and the others cleaned up the mess and returned to their dormitory, 2 hours had passed. Zhao Hu was slumped on the bed, filled with apprehension. Zhao Long looked at Leopard Brother and quietly said, Leopard Brother, we owe you for that comment earlier. Leopard Brother waved his hand, wiping his face with a dirty cloth, his tone indifferent. Nonsense. In this hellhole, if you don't want to take the blame, you have to know the rules. He paused, looking at Zhao Long. That move you made to pull your sleeve was also pretty clever. Zhao Long shook his head, seemingly seizing the opportunity, casually asking, where are we headed now? Leopard Brother lay down, closed his eyes, and mumbled vaguely, heard we're going to Rabbit. You'll know when we get there. Rabbit Autonomous Region? In the dim light, Zhao Long and Zhao Hu exchanged glances, their hearts sinking. The Rabbit Autonomous Region was located within the vicinity of the Cassiopeia constellation, 464 light-years from Zhuangbai. Having boarded this pirate ship, the brothers likely would never return. Hey, do you think the boss will remember us? Zhao Long lay on the cold bed, gazing at the endless stream of jump light outside the window. In the depths of his eyes, the last flicker of hope was completely extinguished, replaced by a sober and resolute determination to survive. Chapter 127. Astro-class frigate on the planet Carthage. Deep in the winding mountains, a manor of the elders lay quietly in the embrace of swirling clouds. Here, far from the prosperity of Zhuangbai City, it also avoided the shimmering lakes of Halifa City. The architectural style of the manor is ancient and heavy, with a massive one-way glass curtain wall framing the natural landscape outside like a flowing painting. The tranquility is only broken by the distant sound of a man-made waterfall and the occasional calls of rare birds. Elder Joao Batik stands quietly in front of the large one-way glass wall in the study, hands clasped behind his back, gazing at the sea of clouds that glows with a magnificent purple-gold hue in the sunset. He is dressed in a loose, comfortable dark velvet robe, and the ring on his finger, symbolizing his elder status, reflects a deep and restrained sheen in the bright sunlight. His golden yellow pupils mirror the drifting clouds but are as cold as a deep abyss. This is a characteristic of the noble bloodline of Joao. In the study, there is more than just Batik. Another elder, Joao Lani, sits on the sofa, angrily berating Parker. He also possesses the signature golden yellow pupils, but at this moment, his eyes burn with unabashed fury. On the table, a holographic screen displays a report detailing how Blackwater Bay was forcefully robbed of 500 million star coins by a mysterious battleship. The rough exclamation, "Isn't this just bullying honest folks?" echoes in the study, clashing with the surrounding elegance. This group of useless beings. Lonnie leans back on the sofa and slowly closes his eyes. Batik finally turns around, his golden pupils calmly sweeping across the screen before settling on Lonnie. He does not rush to respond, but instead walks steadily to the ebony wine cabinet nearby, retrieves a bottle of rich vintage wine, and two crystal glasses made of blue stone. The pale green liquid pours into the glasses with a gentle sound. He gently pushes one glass to Lonnie's side of the coffee table and stands by the window with his glass. 500 million star coins is no small amount. Horn's choice to sacrifice some wealth to avert disaster was rational given the current situation. Lonnie opens his eyes, lifts the crystal glass, and swirls it. The bluestone crystal and the pale green liquid blend together, at times resembling an iceberg, at times like the aurora. Batik, our heir is inviting wolves into the house. Parker, Batik repeats, taking a sip of the wine. He is indeed reckless and naive, but he hides it well. If it weren't for the incident at Blackwater Bay, we would still be unaware that the guests at Lakeside Castle hold a battleship. Lonnie's golden pupils shoot sharply at Batik. What about the battleship? Are you suggesting we just swallow this loss? Loss. Lonnie, we haven't lost anything. The guests took the money from Blackwater Bay, not from our treasury. Batik, do you think Horn and his group can come up with that much money? Let them gather it slowly. Batik finishes his drink in one gulp, placing the bluestone crystal glass on the coffee table. I have reviewed the intelligence in detail. A battleship capable of easily breaching our previous generation firewall means that the other party possesses technology that surpasses ours. From an investment perspective, Parker's move isn't entirely wrong. Batik pauses. It's just that Parker is still young. He doesn't understand the importance of money, how difficult it is to earn star coins. If we give the guests 500 million today, tomorrow we might have to give $1 billion. It would be fine if he were using his own. Exactly. Ronnie listened intently, deeply agreeing. That kid actually drew from the family treasury, really getting bold. What's the attitude from the elder brother's side? Batik shook his head. He would most likely side with Parker. Let's just let it go this time. Batik, anger won't solve the problem, Ronnie. Batik's voice was low and firm. The Juam family needs to stay united. Guests will eventually leave. What's important is what surprises Parker's investment can bring us. Surprises? Ronnie snorted coldly. Batik, you need to think this through. If we can't fill this gap before the ceremony, we're going to bleed heavily. There's always more money to be made. Batik sat opposite, golden eyes fixed on Ronnie. Whether it's more or less, it won't shake your position. But remember, Juam must always present a united front. Don't say I didn't give you a chance to distance yourself from those people. Ronnie's gaze flickered, and he finally downed his drink. Got it. I'll take my leave. Batik nodded slightly, his gaze returning to the vast sea of clouds outside. The void outside the Red Soldier Collection Station was deep and silent. In the port, a battleship of the Death Spiral class lay quietly docked, while an assault craft stealthily emerged from the hangar deck, gliding into the darkness. In the vast void, the rear hatch of the assault craft opened. At this moment, Lu Ling's balance had reached 1 billion, and she had already added her selected goods to the shopping cart. Astro-class frigate, wheelbase, length 67 m, width 60 m, height 60 m, mass 380. 000 T effective shield strength, 800 TJD effective armor strength, 880 TJD effective structural strength, 900 TJD capacitor core, 4300 TJ, recharge time, 19 minutes 37 seconds, reactor output, 3650 GWH warp speed, 5 AUs price, 248. 000 ISK below the interface. A brief introduction about the ship slowly rolled. The Astro-class frigate is one of the first ships manufactured by the Sisterhood for clone pilots. Developed by the Sanctuary Legion, this Legion's exploration of outer space is not limited to research and rescue operations. They have been attempting to unveil the mysteries of the Eve Gate. Thanks to the relentless efforts of the Sisterhood and the exquisite craftsmanship of the Sanctuary Legion, the Astro-class is both agile and sturdy, embodying the ideals of star explorers, safety, discretion, and functionality. It excels at navigating and exploring hazardous space, capable of uncovering unknown treasures while safely retreating with the spoils. Its engines can utilize various energy sources, allowing it to handle any conflicts that may arise between the cargo in its large hold and the internal systems. Its armor is exceptionally robust compared to similarly agile ships, and it is equipped with numerous sensing devices, enabling its crew to track a wide array of signal sources. Additionally, it employs an advanced and mysterious technology that transfers part of the jump core's functionality to a cylindrical structure outside the hull, greatly enhancing its stealth capabilities while minimizing the impact of the jump. Lu Ling's gaze swept over the remaining key modules and their prices. Small Sisterhood Core Probe Launcher. This is a launcher for deploying core scanning probes to scan spatial signals in space. Price, 84,000,000 ISK. Includes 8 Sisterhood core probes, small stealth operations cloaking device, as a very specialized technology. The stealth operations cloaking device is designed to work in conjunction with certain types of stealth ships. Price, 36,000,000 ISK, 125mm advanced Gauss cannon. This 125mm railgun operates similarly to its larger counterpart, but with a much higher firing rate and lower power. Types of hybrid ammunition used: antimatter ammunition, iridium ammunition, iron ammunition, lead ammunition, manganese ammunition, thorium ammunition, tungsten ammunition, molybdenum ammunition. Price, 750,000 ISK. Artifact Analyzer. This is an archaeological system used to analyze and study ancient relics, potentially uncovering valuable artifacts. Price, 5,000,000 ISK. Data Analyzer. A hacking system used to bypass electronic security systems, possibly allowing access to valuable data or items. Price, 300,000 ISK. Small jump drive, 1 Malawian kwacha. Activating this will increase the ship's maximum speed. Price, 500,000 ISK. Maximum cruising speed, 30,649. Cargo Scanner. Scans target cargo holds. Price, 500,000 ISK. Small adaptive shield enhancer. Increases the shield's resistance to all types of damage. Price, 2,000 ISK. Small inertia stabilizer. Enhances ship control and maneuverability. Price, 50,000 ISK. Payment successful. 379, 350,000. Wallet balance, 230, 890, 882. Items deposited in hangar. Assembling. Please name the ship. Courage I, Astro Class. Assembly complete. Activation successful. Extraction. Please select extraction location. Current position. Confirm extraction. Was an invisible yet powerful force suddenly radiated from him, causing the space in front to warp violently, creating ripples akin to water waves. However, this ripple soon abruptly calmed, as if nothing had happened. With the experience from the first time, Lu Ling directly clicked board ship from the assets. The moment the command took effect, the special coating used for camouflage on the hull began to peel away in flakes, like shattering glass. Beneath the coating, the sleek, pure white Astro-class frigate finally revealed its true form. It quietly hovers in the universe, unique and elegant, with its most prominent feature being a massive arc-shaped structure resembling a horseshoe or the letter C, rising from the rear of the hull, forming a highly recognizable silhouette. Its main body appears relatively low and flat, contrasting sharply with the large arc structure above, giving it an agile, yet stable visual impression. In terms of color scheme, it predominantly features pure white, accented with red and gray detailing on the front of the hull and the arc structure. A landing hatch opens on the side of the vessel, and guiding lights illuminate. Without hesitation, Lu Ling skillfully steers the assault boat into the blue light curtain. The hatch closes behind, isolating them from the vacuum of space. It is still a hangar, but this hangar deck cannot compare to the previous one, accommodating at most 10 vehicles or 20 drones. This time, he brought Zavina, Chin, and Wayla. Lu Ling connected to the communication system. Ola, take control of the vessel. Requesting authorization. Authorization granted. Permission sequence updating. Update complete. All systems of the vessel are now under control. Take me to the bridge. Path has been planned. Please follow the guidance. Chapter 128. Small covert operation. Stealth device. Ola's voice directly resonated within the cabin, and as she provided her instructions, a blue beacon path appeared beneath their feet. A hatch on the side of the hangar slid open, revealing the passage behind it. Lu Ling and the three women stepped in. The passage was not spacious enough for three to walk side by side, but was exceptionally clean and tidy, with smooth, light-colored composite walls that exuded a sense of futuristic technology. The metallic floor beneath them was covered with a dark gray non-slip nanocoating, absorbing their footsteps to a minimal sound. The air was filled with a highly purified freshness, and the sound of the circulating system was almost inaudible. Unlike the rough and vast interior of the previous vessel, the Astro-class interior appeared extremely efficient and compact, as if every inch of space had been meticulously calculated and utilized to the fullest. Wow. Qin curiously looked around, instinctively reaching out to touch the smooth wall, remarking how bright and refined this vessel was compared to the previous one. Wayla seemed a bit shy, cautiously following behind, afraid of damaging anything. The passage had several turns, passing by numerous closed hatches, each marked with simple icons and universal language indicating their functions. Drone control center, sensor array core, backup energy node. Reaching the center, one side of the passage's wall suddenly turned transparent, revealing a narrow and complex structure behind it. Dozens of energy conduits of varying thickness spiraled around a central crystal column, with a bluish energy flowing slowly within. Ola explained, this is the diversion conduit of the transition core, which externalizes some core functions into the sister ring, greatly enhancing transition stability and stealth effects. Continuing forward, they passed through a slightly wider intersection, which housed a small supply point equipped with a synthesizer and a small medical station, clearly prepared for long-term deep space exploration. At the front of the intersection was a bridge elevator. Taking the elevator brought the four of them to the command center. As the door opened, even Lu Ling's gaze shifted slightly. The scene of the bridge came into view. Directly ahead was a nearly 15-meter-wide arc-shaped composite crystal screen, presenting the vast starry sky without reservation. The bridge space, nearly 10 meters high, was evenly illuminated by intelligent soft lighting, with all control consoles and floating holographic interfaces emitting a cool blue data stream. It spanned 2 levels, about the size of a basketball court. The space wasn't particularly spacious, but was well laid out, resembling a highly integrated advanced mission command center. The air circulation here was more refined, almost imperceptible. The main color scheme of the control consoles remained a clean light gray and deep gray, extensively using matte materials to reduce reflections, filled with the coldness characteristic of precision instruments. The captain's seat was on the second level, but what surprised Lu Ling was that the space capsule was not beneath the seat, but stood upright behind it, revealing half an egg shape. Lu Ling sat in the captain's command chair, surrounded by several slightly floating, multi-angle rotating, and retractable holographic control consoles, displaying real-time data streams from various systems. Shi Weina naturally stood at the side and slightly behind his chair, like the most loyal guard and aide, her gaze quickly scanning the various screens. Qin and Wayla were stunned by this concentrated technological marvel, momentarily forgetting their actions. On the left and right sides were the navigation, control, and tactical positions, each equipped with dedicated control panels and holographic projection arrays. At the rear of the bridge, there was also an independent small analysis station, equipped with dedicated interfaces for relic analyzers and data analyzers. Through the enormous main screen, they could see the massive Death Spiral-class battleship beside them, as well as the dilapidated Red Soldier collection station further away. In this small, exquisite, yet technologically advanced corvette, everything from the outside world seemed to be isolated. A different experience, focused on exploration and concealment, distinct from the destructive power of commanding the Death Spiral, surged in Lu Ling's heart. Ola's voice echoed. The Astro-class is one of the special ships exclusively for clones. Therefore, the entire ship can operate all functions with just 26 people in standard mode, and the bridge can be piloted by just 3. In clone mode, a minimum of 6 people is required to activate all functions. Initial ship status diagnosis in progress. Main weapon slot, 44. Secondary weapon slot, 02. Modification slot, 03. High energy slot, 26. Medium energy slot, 48. Low energy slot, 28. System self-check completed. All modules online. Stealth device pre-charging completed. Sisterhood core probe launcher calibration completed. It is recommended that Officer Shervina, Senior Crew Member Qin, and Senior Crew Member Wei La immediately begin adaptive skill training, and the recommended list has been provided. Galeni Frigate Operations, AMR Frigate Operations, Archaeology, Geodesy, Stealth Theory, Introduction to Light Drones, Mechanics, fortunately. These level 1 skill books are not expensive, and Lu Ling spent 3 million to buy each person a copy. There are also direct learning capsules available, but they cost 10 times the price of the skill books. The basic driving threshold for the Astro class is not high. Ola, load the star map. Star map, database linked. Patria Empire full star map loaded. Activate stealth device. Command confirmed. Small stealth device activated. Against the backdrop of the massive black hull of the Death Vortex, the pristine Astro class frigate, Courage I, appeared minuscule, quietly floating in the deep void. Its lines were smooth and elegant, and the unique sister ring structure reflected arcs of light under the distant stars. In the next moment, change arrived quietly. The light receded. The white hull began to blur and become transparent, completely disappearing from all radar and sensor readings within just 2